Welcome to the Manhwa world. Today we describe a new Manhwa story. Remember to like and subscribe our channel for more new Manhwa stories. The scene unfolded as crowd cheering for the Emperor and Empress of Castina Empire. The coronation of Rublus Kamaludan Shana Castina Empire's 34th Emperor, had begun. The crowd shouts, "Long live the Emperor! Long live the Empress! Long live the Emperor! Long live the Empress!" They start saying, "Aren't they a match made in heaven? Both of them look so happy." Indeed. The empire will prosper now that the emperor finally met his empress. Aristia, the first wife of the emperor, stands behind the crowd listening them. Empress Palace. Empress Jiyun, second wife of emperor and his favorite wife, said to Aristia, "Wow, I've never seen silver hair before. It's so pretty. What's your name?" Tia bowed and replied, "My name is Aristia Monique, dear Empress, moon of the empire." Hearing her name, she gets surprised and asked, "So you're Aristia?" She asked her, "Can I call you Tia?" Jiyun said, "Nobody here is around my age, so I don't have any friends." "This is great. Nice to meet you, Tia." Aristia bowed and said, "I am honored, your majesty." Meanwhile she thinks, among nobles, only good friends call each other by their given name. She's been taking etiquette lessons for a while now, yet she still doesn't know such simple manners. Jiyun said, "My name's Jiyun. I hope we can be good friends." Tia replied, "Yes, your majesty." Jiyun said while laughing, "Don't call me like that, you can just call me by my name casually." Hearing this, Tia grits her teeth while thinking, that place should have been mine. She tells, the Castina Empire has a proud history that lasts 1,000 years. The 33rd Emperor Merkin Lu Shana Castina was perfect and had ruled most generously. However, his one flaw was that he had no heir to succeed his throne. When the royal palace grew dim with worry over the matter, he finally had a son late in his life. 4 years later, an oracle's divine message foretold the birth of the prince's partner, and a daughter was born to House Monique, a Marquis family. House Monique was the only Marquis family that contributed to the founding of the empire. As such, none ever doubted that the girl was the foretold partner of the prince. As soon as the girl was able to walk, she was trained to become an empress without any room for freedom. After Emperor Merkin passed away many years later, Prince Ruvelus was crowned as the 34th emperor. The girl waited, knowing that she would now soon become his empress. However, the unexpected happened, and it happened suddenly. A mysterious girl appeared at the lake of the royal palace. The girl had a curious appearance. Hair as black as soot that came down to her shoulders, and pitch-black eyes. The temple fell into chaos at the sudden appearance of this girl, clearly from another world not our own. Then, an oracle was announced, naming her as the emperor's true partner. And so, the mystical girl was worshipped as the empress. While the girl, once trained to be the empress ever since she was born, was admitted to the royal palace as a lower queen instead of as an empress. Aristia walks in garden outside the palace. While walking she thinks, "I often walked in this garden with the late emperor." While coming close to a tree she thinks, "Now I visit this place alone, without him." She recalls late emperor's words as a memory, "My dear girl." Tears fell down from her eyes as she thinks, "I believed I would one day become the wife of his son and be happy." While crying she thinks, "Dear Emperor Merkin, I miss you." Suddenly she hears Jiyun's voice and gets shocked. Jiyun said, "Tia." Seeing her, Tia thinks, "Why is Jiyun here?" Jiyun asked her, "What's wrong?" Tia said, "Welcome, your majesty, dear moon of the empire." Jiyun asked her, "Were you crying? Did something happen?" Tia turns saying, "It's nothing. I was just remembering something dear to me." Hearing this with a confusing look, Jiyun asked, "Something dear?" She gets emotional and said, "I see. I want to see my family too. I was just dropped into this world somehow without any warning." Seeing her, Tia thinks, "Ah, of course. She must have had her own family too. I think she turned 18 this year." Jiyun starts crying saying, "Mom, Dad." Tia, moving her hand towards her for condonation, said, "Your ma." Meanwhile she gets interrupted by Emperor Ruve's sudden appearance. Ruve asked, "What's going on here?" They both get shocked. Jiyun gets close to Ruve and shouts, "Ruve." He asked her, "What's wrong, Jiyun?" With a furious look he said to Tia, "You." Tia flinched when he said, "What have you done to Jiyun?" She tries to say, "Your majesty, I." Meanwhile Jiyun interrupts saying, "Ruve. Tia didn't do anything wrong." She tells him, "I was tearing up a bit because I miss my family back home." Ruve said to her, "I see." With a gentle tone and softness in his voice he said, "You must be tired. You should go ahead and rest indoors. I'll be right with you." Jiyun said, "All right." Seeing him like this, Tia gets shocked and thinks, that tender tone. She thinks, he's never spoken to me like that before. Meanwhile Ruve said, you. With a cold tone he said, don't you dare approach Ji-yoon. He said, Ji-yoon is a pure, gentle woman. The likes of you shall not dare treat her carelessly. She tries to say, Your Majesty, but he interrupts her saying, did you think the crown of the Empress was yours? Never. The prophecy was misinterpreted to begin with. It wasn't yours in the first place. It was Ji-yoon's. Hearing this she clenched her dress and thinks, I was only trying to understand how she felt. While leaving Ruve said, if this happens again, I will not forgive you. Tia in her mind asked, why do you hate me so, Ruveless? I did my best to earn your love, that's all. After some time Ji-yoon comes to Tia's room and asked her for forgiveness saying, I'm sorry, Tia. Tia remains silent giving blank look while Ji-yoon said again, I'm so sorry. Tia said, I do not understand what you mean, Your Majesty. Meanwhile she thinks, is this about how I'm doing all the work in this palace which should be done by you? Or about your unsophisticated etiquette that isn't improving despite all those lessons? Ji-yoon said, well, I heard that you were supposed to be the Empress. I heard you were chosen as Ruve's fiancé since the moment you were born. But I arrived and Tia thinks, quite slow with the news, I see. Ji-yoon starts crying and said, I really didn't know. I'm sorry. Tia said, you do not need to apologize for anything, Your Majesty. We were simply foolish and misinterpreted the oracle. Ji-yoon asked her, what do you mean? Tia replied, only God can decide who shall stand beside the Emperor. You are the person foretold in the oracle, so it is only right that you become the Empress, Your Majesty. Hearing this Ji-yoon asked her, what? God decides? What's so great about being an Empress? Hearing this Tia gets shocked and stops writing thinking, what? Ji-yoon said, I just happened to fall into this world that I know nothing about. It was overwhelming when everyone talked about some oracle in marriage. It's not like I can go back home, so I accepted since I didn't have any other choice. But now I found out that he already had a fiancé. Ji-yoon shouts, so what's with that? That just makes me the villainous bee. Who took your place? She shouts, all I want is to just go back home. I never wanted to be something like an Empress. Hearing this Tia gets angry and thinks, how can this person be so? She asked Ji-yoon in serious tone, are you done? She raised from her chair and slams the table. Ji-yoon gets confused and asked, Tia. Tia said, I am simply shocked by how irresponsible you sound right now. You simply accepted all this because you had no way to go back home. Even so, you should have given sincere thought into what kind of position this was when making that decision. Ji-yoon said, that's. Tia interrupts her while saying with anger, the Empress is the mother of all who live in the Empire, and is the sole partner of the Emperor who will rule the future of the Empire. Your position is not something to be taken so lightly that you can just whine about. Meanwhile she thinks, I have always wanted to stand there, yet I could never have it. I have worked all my life to stand beside him, and yet. The papers fells on the ground and Ji-yoon said, Tia. Tia tunrs her face while saying, it maddens me so to see how careless you are about this, Your Majesty. I pity the Emperor and the people of our empire. She said, most of all, I pity myself for spending all my youth preparing, only to end up worthless, assisting you like so. Tia thinks, becoming his lower queen because of someone like her. Just why did he choose someone like her to be his partner? While seeing Ji-yoon she thinks, what was so lovely to him about a woman like her? Ji-yoon said, Tia, I suddenly came to a strange place, and I was confused. It was hard for me to accept the fact that Ruve, the one person I relied on in this world, had another wife. And that person was you, my friend. Maybe that's why I said something I shouldn't have. I'm sorry. Tia remains silent after hearing this and Ji-yoon said while leaving, I'll be leaving now. She leaves and Tia sighed thinking, I wonder what has gotten into me. I could have held back. I've been strangely impatient and unable to hold back my anger these days. While seeing the papers she thinks, right, work. I have to finish these. While picking the papers from the ground she thinks, these papers should be authorized by the Empress. She enjoys her privilege and his love, yet ignores all of her given duties. Meanwhile Ruve comes and slams the door. Tia gets shocked. Seeing him she said, Your Majesty. She bowed and said, Welcome, Your Majesty, the sole son of the Empire. Meanwhile Ruve strikes her face without saying anything. She gets completely shocked by this act. He asked her in anger, What did you say to Ji-yoon? He asked her, Did you say that you were supposed to be the Empress? Tia replied, Never, Your Majesty. He shouts in anger, So why is Jiyoon in tears and telling me to go find you? Tia thinks, of course. I blamed her on the inside, and felt pitiful. But after Jiyoon appeared, not once have I thought of you as mine. No, even before she appeared, you were never kind to me. So how could I wish for something like that now? Tia gets surprised when he asked her, do you wish to become my woman that badly? With confusion on her face she said, Your Majesty. Ruve said, what for? I know it's not for love. A woman so bitter and cold, she doesn't even cry out when slapped. How could you love me? He smirks while saying, House Monique is flourishing even now, so it can't be due to simple loyalty for your family either. Perhaps, you wish to bear the future emperor in order to continue your family's legacy. Hearing this she shouts in her mind, no. She thinks, though I was never loved, I wanted to love you, and I wanted to become someone who would help you. I never once thought of this as a duty for my family or politics. Ruve gets close to her and holds her hand and said, strip. Hearing this she gets shocked. He asked her, what are you surprised for? Isn't this what you wanted? He said, if you wish to be my woman so much, then I will make you so. He slams her into wall and she shouts, Your Majesty. She shouts, don't do this. He forced her while she said, Your Majesty, please. He asked her, why are you pretending to hesitate now? Isn't this what you wanted? She gets confused and said, I do not understand. Meanwhile she thinks, oh, right, I overheard before. Is it true? The Emperor. Yes, he hasn't stepped a foot into the Empress chambers, not even once. I heard that the Empress is rejecting him. She thinks, if that is true, what if I accept him now? Then, won't he at least think of me a little bit? She thinks, if I conceive his child, maybe he will look my way once again. She gets herself released from him and said, I may not be the Empress. However, I am not a mistress either, I am a queen. I will take these clothes off myself, so please respect my wishes. Hearing this he smirks and asked, a queen? Not a mistress. He pulls her from her arm saying, make no mistake, you are nothing to me. Hearing this she thinks, I've always imagined the day I would be one with you. But this is not what I had in mind. Not like this. Ruve pushes her towards the wall and she shouts with pain. She said, Your Majesty. Wait. Ruve said, I'll do as you wish, so be quiet. 2 months later, a grand banquet was held. It was to celebrate Jiyoon's 1-year anniversary since she appeared in the Empire. Seeing Jiyoon and Ruve, Tia thinks, in the end, she. Meanwhile she recalls the moment when Jiyoon said her, Tia, I'm sorry. I've fallen in love with Ruve. At first I rejected his words of love because of you, but in the end I couldn't help but fall in love with someone as kind as him. I will take him in once this banquet is over. But, I'll treasure you like my own little sister for the rest of my life. Let's be friends, just like sisters. Okay. Tia thinks, I wonder if my endless longing for him will fade once Jiyoon accepts him. I wonder what kind of woman I will be. In the end, I can't even hate him. He hurts me and ignores me with a cold glare every time, yet I still yearn for his love like this. She was thinking, I don't understand. While she starts feeling nauseous. A servant noticed her and rushed towards her while she thinks, why do I feel nauseous? Am I getting sick? The servant asked her, Your Highness, are you feeling ill? You seem pale. Oh, Tia replied, I'm alright. She starts sweating and said, I'm just feeling a bit. She stumbles and thinks, I feel so nauseous. It's like my insides are turning over. But I didn't even eat anything. Everyone seeing her like this starts whispering. Some gets irritated and some laughs as they found what is happening. Seeing them Tia thinks, what is this? Why are they looking at me like that? Meanwhile Ruve and Jiyoon asked her, is something wrong? Ruve asked Tia, what's all this commotion? Tia bowed and replied, it's nothing, Your Majesty. Nothing is WR. Meanwhile she feels nauseous again. Seeing her Ruve and Jiyoon both gets confused. Seeing them Tia thinks, no, I don't want him to see me in such a state. But, meanwhile Sir Ras comes and said, congratulations, Your Majesty. Ruve asked him, Sir Ras, what do you mean by that? He replied, though I may be hasty, it seems that the queen is with a child. He said, that is a blessing to this empire and to the royal family. It's only right to congratulate such a blessing, is it not? Hearing this everyone starts murmuring and shouts, she's pregnant. They start saying, the Empress is right there, yet she got pregnant first, then she could. Tia gets confused and thinks, I am with a child. Meanwhile Jiyoon sits down shouting, no. Seeing her Ruve shouts, Jiyoon. He asked her, Jiyoon, are you alright? Your Majesty. Meanwhile she glares at Tia. Ruve, helping Ji-yoon to stand, said, "Here, Ji-yoon, stand up." He said to Tia, "Hear me, dear queen. To think that I'd hear news of your child on such a memorable day as today, this is quite a blessing." Hearing him speaking kindly with her for first time, she gets surprised and thinks, that kind voice. He said, "I am truly delighted." Noticing his eyes, she gets shocked and thinks, he isn't speaking his true feelings. His eyes are so cold. The crowd starts shouting, "Congratulations, Your Majesty! Congratulations! Your Highness the Queen! Congratulations!" He said to Tia, "You don't seem so well. Would it not be better for you to return to your chamber and rest now?" Tia bowed and replied, "Yes, Your Majesty. Then, I shall take my leave." Ruve said, "I should be walking you out, but the guest of honor shouldn't leave his place. I shall send a doctor to look over your health and see you afterward." He said, "Do take care of yourself." She thinks, he is clearly banishing me. She said, "I am grateful, Your Majesty." She went to her room and the doctor said to her, "You must let yourself rest since this is only the beginning of your pregnancy." He said, "This tea will help you feel better and less nauseous." Hearing this, she thinks, "So I really do have a child. I thought I was sluggish these days from working too much." While touching her belly, she thinks, "There is a baby in here." She picks the cup of tea and starts drinking it, thinking, "I had a dream once. Even if he detests me and hates me, I hoped he would lay his eyes on me again if I had his child." It was a naive, foolish dream. The late emperor had him in his final years, so he must have been lonely during his youth as the only child. But the reality is, "I will see you afterward." I'm such a fool. I know he only said those words reluctantly because everyone was watching, yet here I am now buoyantly waiting for him to visit me. After some weeks, she was walking in the hallway while she thinks, 3 weeks have passed since the banquet, but he didn't come to see me once. At least today, he finally called for me. But that is enough to make me happy. To feel so sluggish and dizzy today of all days. I often feel ill and uneasy these days. Is it because of the rain? She went to Ruve's room while he was standing beside the window seeing outside. A servant said to Ruve, "Your Majesty, Her Highness the Queen has arrived." She comes inside and said, "I am here as requested, Your Majesty, the sole son of the Empire." He said, "I don't wish to speak with you for long, so I'll be brief." He said, "I don't suspect that the child in your belly is not mine. You wouldn't do that, judging by your high sense of pride." Hearing this, she thinks, "Stay calm. Don't show him anything disgraceful. It will displease him if I do." Ruve said, "However, keep this in mind. I will choose my heir from among the children of the Empress, not you. It doesn't matter how many children you bear, nor how smart the children grow to be. They will never become my heir or successor. Do you understand?" Hearing his cold words, she thinks, "Such a cold voice. It's like his words are cutting through my bones." He asked her, "Why aren't you answering?" I asked, "Do you understand?" She thinks, "Why does he hate me so? It hurts my heart." She tries to say, "Yes, I but suddenly she starts feeling dizzy. She staggers and was about to fall down. Ruve catches her and saved her from falling. Seeing him close, she thinks, "Oh, I've never seen him like that before." Meanwhile, Ji-yoon comes and opens Tae's door saying, "Ruve, I got tired of waiting, so I came to you." She said, "Today is." She stopped seeing them both. She asked in anger, "What are you doing?" Ruve tries to say, "Ji-yoon, this is." She said, "How could both of you do this to me?" Ruve said, "Ji-yoon, this isn't what you think." She turns and starts leaving saying, "I don't care." Ruve shouts, "Wait, Ji-yoon." He shouts, "Please, listen to me, Ji-yoon." Meanwhile, he leaves Tia and she falls on the ground. He turns and gets shocked asking, "What?" He shouts seeing her on the ground, "Queen." Meanwhile, Tia shouts with pain, my belly." She thinks, "I feel like my stomach is ripping into pieces." She shouts in her mind, "It hurts. It hurts so much." Ruve does towards the outside shouting, "Is there anyone outside? Call the doctor here, now." Tia thinks, "Why is he looking so panicked? Why? It's not like him to be so." Her dress was covered with blood and she thinks, "Why?" She wakes up in her bed. Seeing towards window, she thinks, "Morning. Just like any other day." She thinks, "But why do I feel so empty?" The doctor asked her, "Are you awake, Your Highness?" Tia remembers the moment she fell. She clenched her hand thinking this. She asked the doctor, "Did I lose my baby?" The doctor said, "I'm afraid so, Your Highness." She clenched her hand thinking, "As I thought." The doctor said, "I am so very sorry, Your Highness." She thinks, "I guessed as much. There was too much blood." She asked the doctor, then, will I be able to bear another child? He replied, that's because you were always quite frail in health since you were young, Your Highness. She thinks, I see. Then I won't be able to see a child between him and I, now and forever, but. She recalls that moment. Ruve shouts, attend to the queen. Ji-yoon, wait, let me. She thinks, this might be for the better. It's better that a baby isn't born from a stubborn woman like me. Even now, the sight of him turning his back towards me, that hurts even more than the fact that I lost my child. It's just as he said. I am a chilling, cold woman. Meanwhile the maid starts gossiping, the queen is in such a state, yet her father Marquis Monique hasn't even come to see her. He only goes back and forth from the knight's quarters. Well, of course House Monique has always been fiercely loyal to the royal palace. I mean, he didn't show any discontent when his daughter was called for to be the queen. It's a humiliation after all the years she was trained as an empress. Does he not care about his daughter? Seeing Tia sleeping they said, well, just look at how calm the queen is after losing her child. I guess ice flows in the veins of that family instead of blood. After waking up Tia thinks, I wonder how many days or weeks passed since then. Yet another nightmare fell upon me even before I regained my health. She raised thinking, I couldn't sleep at all. Why is my insomnia getting worse? She thinks, I should go visit the office. I'm sure a lot of work has piled up while I was away. She was about to open the door when she heard maids saying, hey, did you hear the news? A maid asked, is it true? The other one said, it is. I heard the head maid talking about it. Tia gets shocked when they said, the Empress is with a child. She thinks, Ji-yoon is pregnant. The maid said, I heard that the Emperor was so very delighted. They're going to hold a grand banquet and offer gifts to all the people of the empire. Even the temples are holding a prayer to bless the child of the prophesied Empress. Amazing. The empire will finally welcome an heir to the throne. She thinks, when I had a child, there were no such celebrations, and nobody rejoiced. Suddenly she starts losing her sense and starts laughing wildly and said, haha nobody. Seeing her the maids gets shocked and asked, Your Highness. They said, Your Highness, please forgive us. Meanwhile Tia laughs while saying, pregnant. She's pregnant. She giggles and laughs so hard and said, so Ji-yoon has a child, does she? Seeing her like this the maids gets shocked and said, Your Highness, please, calm yourself. Meanwhile Tia's dad opens the door hearing her voice and asked, my dear queen, is something wrong? The maid seeing him shouts, Sir Monique. Tia said, you're here, father. Are you here to congratulate the Empress for bearing a child as well? I won't ever have a child from now on. But look, she's pregnant. How funny. Don't you think so, father? Her father steps close to her while she laughs continuously. He grabs her from her shoulders and shouts, please, get a hold of yourself. He shouts, Your Highness. Tia stops laughing. She asked, what was I? She turns and said, please forgive me for showing such disgrace, father. Meanwhile she thinks, I've been trained to contain my emotions, and yet, seeing her father she thinks, he must be disappointed. He was always stern no matter who he was facing, and even to himself. She gets shocked when her father said, I should never have sent you here. She asked, what? Meanwhile she thinks, father has never objected against the royal palace before. Father was always loyal. What does he mean by saying this now? He said to her, Your Highness, please listen closely. I have to travel to the borders due to an urgent matter. He said, so please, stay strong and wait for me. When I return, I will surely take you back to our Monique family home. Hearing this she asked, is that really true? Father, can I really return home? Her father said, I will definitely make it so. So please ready yourself, and stay well. He asked her, do you understand? Tia with a sense of happiness replied, yes, father. Her father while leaving said, now then. She thinks, father, he was always stern, yet he shows concern for me now. But, I wonder why I feel so uneasy. Father, he seems so far now. Maybe I should call him back, tell him not to leave. She thinks, no, he'll return soon. He always keeps his promise. She walks towards the window thinking, when he comes back, I'll ask him, did you really think me more important, even though you've always put the empire and the royal palace first? I will definitely ask him. And then. Meanwhile, Ji-yoon gets attacked by masked men and shouts, Kya. Who are you? Who ordered you to do this? Ji-yoon was ambushed by masked men during her walk outside the palace grounds. It happened 4 days later. The knights seeing Ji-yoon injured shouts, Your Majesty. The maid came shouting while saying, "Your Highness. This is an emergency." She barges in and said, "Marquis Monique was arrested for treason." Aristia gets shocked after hearing that. She turns around and asked, "My father?" Aristia tells in her mind, Ji-yoon was attacked by unknown men during her excursion into town and lost her child. The next day, my father was arrested as the mastermind behind the attack. While running to where the emperor was, Aristia thinks in her mind, "This can't be. Father is a loyal man. He wouldn't do such a thing." After a while in the throne room, while standing in front of the emperor, Aristia said, "Your Majesty, please spare my father. I beg you." While seated on his throne, the emperor said, "You're asking me to forgive someone who tried to kill the empress." While worried for his father, Aristia said, "There must be some sort of misunderstanding. Father would never do such a thing." She said, "Please, think of the countless years our house has been loyal to the throne. Please spare his life." While smirking, the emperor asked, "Really?" He then said, "Kneel." Aristia gets surprised after hearing that. She said, "What?" The emperor said, "Didn't you want to save your father?" While showing his feet, he said, "Kneel at my feet and lay your head on the ground. Lick my shoe and I shall spare your father." Then he asked, "Well, you can't do it." Aristia clenches his hands and thinks in her mind, "I am a woman who has been trained as an empress, to be the partner of the emperor all my life. I was taught to watch and judge the world along with him, standing equally by his side. I was taught to have a pride to match that position." While recalling Ji-yoon in her mind, she thinks, much more so than the girl of the oracle. She thinks in her mind, "I'm sure my father wouldn't want me to do something so humiliating, because I am a member of the royal family." But she recalls her memories in her mind and thinks, "My father showed me the fatherly love for the first time. He promised to take me home. Pride, or the dignity of the throne, none of that matters to me anymore. I will save my father." Aristia then kneels in front of the emperor and get close to his feet. She thinks in her mind, "Yes, this is for my father." The emperor then said, "You were always arrogant, and now I finally see you kneel." After that, Aristia raises her head and asked, "Will you spare my father's life as promised?" Then the emperor said, "Oh, how unfortunate. Your father is already dead. He was executed this morning." Aristia gets stunned after hearing that. She then remembers in her mind her father leaving and thinks, "Then that was my last sight of him." The emperor stands up from his throne and said, "You're more naive than I thought." He leans down towards Aristia and said, "Did you really think I would let him live? He killed my child and hurt Ji-yoon." While he was talking, Aristia gets lost in thoughts. She thinks, "I've never longer wanted for my father's love, not until the last moment, when I saw a sliver of hope in him. I thought I would finally be able to grasp that flickering feeling." While tear came to her eyes, she thinks, "Now I will never be able to know." After that, while feeling lost, Aristia said to the emperor, "You say my father killed your child. Then what about you?" She said, "You took away my everything, you killed my child, and left me with nothing. So what about you?" She stands up in anger, and while furious, she thinks in her mind, "How dare you?" Aristia pulls her hairpin from her hair and points it towards the emperor and said with anger, "What? How dare you?" She then stabs the emperor with the hairpin. The emperor was shocked and tears were falling from Aristia's eyes. While the emperor was in anguish, guards came shouting, "Your Majesty! Your Majesty! Your wound is..." Aristia was standing there while shocked and confused. One of the guards said, "Hurry, call for the doctor. The rest of you, arrest the queen now." Aristia came back to his senses, and looking at the hairpin stained in blood, she starts trembling. Hairpin fell from her hands. She then thinks, "No. What have I done? What's happened to me?" Back at the gallows, the announcer said, "Ashuch, she will be deposed from the position of queen. As for punishment for attempting to murder a royal and such, she will be executed." The executioner puts Aristia's head on the place. Aristia looks towards the emperor while Ji-yoon closed her eyes from watching. Tears came falling from Aristia's face, and she thinks in her mind, "If I could begin my life again, I won't love you again." After that, we heard a shunk sound. "You are the one who I look upon. The path you take will be your fate, and what you wish for will be your path. The one who carves one's own fate, that is your name. Your name is..." Aristia opens her eyes in a room and wonders, a familiar ceiling. A silver shield. The insignia of our house. Why is that there? How odd. She rises up from the bed and pulls aside the curtains. Looking outside the windows, she thinks, This is just like the mansion of House Monique." She gets shocked and confused and thinks in her mind, "What is going on? I left home when I was 16. So why am I here now?" The maid Lena opens the door and came inside. She asked, "Are you awake?" Good morning, Lady Tia. Aristia asked while confused. Lena, how are? Lena giggles and said, oh no, look at you. Your hair is a mess. While Aristia was standing confused she said, you're already 10 now, were you not able to fall asleep? Aristia quickly looks in the mirror she said, what? 10 years old. She wonders, how did this happen? I was executed for treason. Oh, father. She asked, Lena, what about father? Lena replied, the Marquis. He is usually in the training hall at this hour. After hearing that Aristia dashes away. While she was going Lena said, oh, Lady Tia. You're still wearing your pajamas. While running through the hallway servants who saw Aristia greets her, good morning, Lady Tia. Who's in such a hurry? Lady Tia. While going towards the training hall Aristia thinks in her mind, I have to see. I must know if father is safe. Ah, please. I don't care if this is a dream or reality. I have to hurry, to father. After reaching the training hall she saw her father and shouted, Father. Her father turns towards her and while surprised he said, Tia. Looking at his father Aristia thinks in her mind, father was always loyal to the throne and put the royal throne before anything. But in his last moment, father thought of me more importantly than the empire. Aristia jumps towards her father and hugs him. While hugging her father she said, Papa. 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 While tears were dropping from her face she thinks in her mind, he's alive. I'm so glad. While sobbing she said, Papa. All the night and her father were confused while all of this unfolded. After few moments, Lena was brushing Aristia's hair. While brushing she said, I was so surprised. To think that the daughter of the Marquis, the young lady who is the epitome of etiquette, would run outside in her pajamas in the morning. Nobody would believe it unless they saw it with their own eyes. Lena asked, did you have a nightmare? Aristia thinks in her mind, a nightmare? Maybe. But they felt so real. Lena said, you will begin your lessons as the Empress soon. Aristia tells in her mind, Lena got married and left when I entered the royal palace, but now, she looks even younger than the last time I saw her. And me too. Looking at her own hands she thinks, small hands. Lena then said, the Marquis seemed a bit startled as well. You were always so quiet, yet you ran into him in tears. After hearing that Aristia leans down while feeling embarrassed. She thinks in her mind, that's right. What in the world did I do? While Aristia was embarrassed Lena asked, what's wrong? Aristia tells in her mind, I cried in his arms while everyone was looking. What a disgrace. How can I face him again like this? After a while in the dining room, while sitting her father said, come here. Aristia said, I'm sorry for being late, father. Aristia sits on a chair and starts eating. She thinks in her mind, this is so awkward. She then looks towards her father and thinks, father looks a bit odd. She wonders is there something that displeases him? He must be upset because of my behavior in the morning. Aristia then said, father. Are you feeling uncomfortable? Anywhere? Her father flinches after hearing that. Aristia gets surprised by her father's reaction, no. Her father said, it's nothing at all. She thinks, was that my imagination? Just now. Her father then said, Tia. She replied yes. Her father clears his throat and said, well, it's about. While thoughtful Aristia wonders, is his throat uncomfortable? Her father continued, why don't you call me like B? Her father hesitates from speaking but then he said, I mean, you called me. It's nothing. Continue with your meal. Aristia was surprised from her father's unexpected behavior. Looking at her father Aristia thinks in her mind, father is alive. He's talking to me, and we're eating together. If this is a dream, then it's such a happy dream. I don't want to wake up. Even if it means I must sleep forever. Later in her room while sleeping Aristia remembers the emperor and his harsh behavior towards her. She remembers his words, make no mistake. You're nothing to me. Your child will never be my heir. Your father is dead. He was executed this morning. Aristia gasped and quickly rises up from her bed and breathes heavily. She then looks towards the mirror and saw her reflection. The next day, Lena said, it's time for your tea soon. While Aristia was reading the book Lena asked, should I bring it to your room? Aristia said, no, I'll go downstairs. Lena asked, you will? While smiling Lena said, there's your favorite today, meringue pie. You're too thin, Lady Tia. You must eat more. Aristia replied, is that so? She tells in her mind, after wandering in the cruel memories, I opened my eyes to see the people I missed, my home that I longed for. Such warm days. She wonders, which one is the dream, and which one is reality? I wonder how long this will last. While going away her father said, I may be late, so don't worry about my supper. Aristia asked, Father, are you leaving? Her father replied, Yes. I must visit the palace. Aristia said, What, but you don't need to work today. Her father then said, I have something urgent to discuss with Duke Arcant. Aristia said, I see. Her father looks towards her and extends his hand and pats Aristia. He asked Tia, Are you not feeling well? Huh? He asked, Or do you have something to say to me? You suddenly broke into tears last time, as well. Aristia replied, It's nothing. I'm not sick at all. Father. ... Her father said, Really? Looking at his father's confused face, Aristia thinks, he's making that face again. Her father then stands back up and said, Well, if you say so. Aristia said, Take care, father. Her father takes a sigh and said, So you won't call me like that anymore. Huh? While her father gets up on the carriage he said, I'll be back soon. Looking at his father's carriage going, Aristia tells in her mind, Father and I were always cold with each other, only sharing the absolutely necessary manners. But now, he's different from how I remembered him. He patted me on the head, a bit awkwardly so. And I could feel his warmth through the gloves. Perhaps my life was so pitiful that God decided to grant me one last dream. While she was thinking, she wonders, God, that's right. Temple of Vita, the ruling god of the empire. Perhaps the temple of the oracle will have the answer. I should go tomorrow to be certain. At night, while lying in her bed, Aristia suddenly opens her eyes. While gasping, she rises up and thinks in her mind, So dark. I can't see anything. Where is this? Where am I? Is this the palace? Or, while she was wondering, someone grabs her hand. While shocked, she asked, Who's there? Her father said, Tia, it's me. She said, Father. She then quickly hugs her father and repeatedly said, Papa. 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 While patting her head, her father said, You must have had a bad nightmare. While crying, Aristia thinks in her mind, A nightmare? Is it really? I don't know which one is my reality anymore. But I don't want to lose this warmth. At morning, her father said, I should go with you. Aristia said, I'm all right. You must be busy, father. Her father said, You had trouble falling asleep last night. I can't send you to the temple alone. While sitting in the carriage, Aristia said, Don't worry. I'll be careful. The carriage starts running, and while looking outside, Aristia thinks in her mind, Father. He held my hand until I fell asleep last night. She thinks, I can't be certain which is my reality. But if those memories were a dream, and if that was a dream of the future, there might be an oracle that I don't know about. Great Temple, Sanctus Vita. At the temple, the priestess said, May you be blessed with life. Please announce your name and the purpose for your visit. Aristia introduced herself, I am Aristia Monique. I wish to read any oracles from the past few months. The priestess replied, There is nothing as such. The oracle from 5 years ago was the most recent one. Aristia thinks in her mind, What should I do? Looks like they don't have any. Then she said to the priestess, Then I would like to read all the oracles from the past 10 years. The priestess said, I will show you to the prayer room. After reading all of those oracles, Aristia thinks in her mind, There is nothing that suggests anything about my situation. She remembers her old self and thinks, I was 17 years old in that memory. If this place where I am 10 is my reality, that means I've spent 7 years in a night's dream. She remembers the emperor's cold gaze and thinks, But, can that really be so? I can still feel his cold glare and the misery I felt from back then as if it was yesterday. She wonders, Am I simply in a dream right now? While standing up, she said to herself, Phew. What should I do now? The air around her starts blowing, and then she heard a voice. You are here, my child. After hearing those words, Aristia got transported to another space. Aristia shouted, Who are you? Who's talking to me right now? The voice said, I am the one who imbues life into all. You all call me Vita. Aristia thinks in her mind, This can't be. Is someone playing a prank? The voice then said, You wish to know which is the truth, between yourself now and yourself when you were 17. While surprised, Aristia asked, How did you? The voice interrupts her and said, Nothing can escape from my gaze. The answer to your question is that both are your reality. Aristia asked, How can that be? Are you saying that I traveled back in time? The voice replied, That is correct. I have used my power of life to turn back the time of all there is. Aristia asked, Why would you do that? The voice replied, Because the fates of too many have been distorted by my blessed child. Aristia asked, A blessed child? The voice said, My blessed child was fated to be born in this world. However, she ended up falling to another world due to a twist in dimensions. I brought her back into this world when I found her, but that ended up twisting the fate of many, including you. Aristia thinks in her mind, another world. Ji-yoon. Ji-yoon is the blessed child. Aristia then said, then why? Why didn't you send another oracle about Ji-yoon? If I knew that she would appear from another world in the first place, perhaps I would have given up on him earlier. The voice then said, because, when I lost my blessed child, your string of fate, though thin, ended up tangling with him. Aristia gets shocked after hearing that she said, how can that? Then, do you mean to say that I was tangled with him, in order to fill the void left by Ji-yoon's absence? The voice replied, that is so. Aristia said, then, my love, my painful love for him wasn't my own will. You're saying it was an emotion decided simply by fate. The voice said, that is so. Aristia then said, I worked so hard, yet I was never loved back. And that was all because I was just a temporary substitute. Tears starts dropping from her eyes. She said, my existence was simply meant to be a substitute for the blessed child, loved by God. The voice said, that is so. Then Aristia shouted, don't play with me. I lived my life in pain for something like that while she had everything. She vent her anger saying, you're a God that overlooks all life equally, yet you made a child blessed by God. How can you interfere with people as you wish? The voice said, humans cannot avoid the decision that is given unto them. And it is called fate, Fatum. Aristia interrupts the voice and said, no. I refuse a fate like that. The voice said, a human cannot avoid fate. Aristia remembers the emperor in her mind and said, I truly loved him, even though he was never warm towards me. I did all her work as an empress that was pushed to me instead. The people of the empire belittled me, called me a wicked woman, yet I did not bear any ill will towards any of them. She was thinking, God must be testing me like this in order to help me get stronger. God is fair and wise, God will grant me something better after such hardship, that is what I believed. While sobbing she thinks in her mind, yet in truth, I had no freedom to begin with. I was forced to exist as his woman because of fate. I lived my life without knowing the warmth of my father's love. The voice then said, my child, I pity you. But a fate that is decided cannot be changed. So I will instead give you a gift to reward you for your twisted fate. Aristia stops crying and said, a reward? What a joke. She said, fine, I will accept that. Then she shouted with anger, don't you dare be mistaken. I will never think of you as God, and I will never thank you. I will not believe in God anymore. I will reject you with all my life. I will be the one to throw away a God, the same as I was discarded. After hearing all of that the voice then said, that is fine. Do as you wish. After that Aristia starts seeing a star shapes around her and she also heard crackling sound all around her. While Aristia was startled the voice said, you are the one who I look upon. Then voice continued, you are the one who refuses fate. The path you take shall be your fate, and what you wish for will be your path. The one who carves one's own fate, that is your name. Aristia Pioneer La Monique. Aristia falls asleep while hearing those words. Aristia wonders in her dreams, what did I live my life for? What is my existence? In the end, I was nothing. While in her dream she heard someone calling, Tia. Tia. She thinks, what? It's noisy. Tia. She said, leave me alone. The voice continues, Tia. 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 While covering her ears Aristia thinks, I have nothing more to give to you. My effort, my pride, my tears, my love, and Tia, you rejected my whole being. What more do you want from me? The voice didn't stop calling, Tia. 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 Someone said, please. Please, open your eyes. She heard, Tia, wake up. Tia. Aristia opens her eyes and saw her father and other maids worried looking at her. Lena asked, Lady Tia, you're awake. Aristia then called her father. Her father said, Lena, you're finally awake. Aristia looks at her father crying and thinks in her mind, tears. My father, who was always so stern. The servant said, I'm so relieved, Lady Tia. I was so surprised to hear that you collapsed at the temple. We thought something was terribly wrong since you didn't wake up for such a long time. Hearing their worries Aristia feels touched and thinks in her mind, that's right, I'm not alone. Now, I have my father who loves me enough to abandon his duties, Lena, whom I've been with since I was young, and the people from my family who worry about me. I have people around me who will hold my hand if I reach out. I don't need to yearn for God's salvation. All I had to do was look around. I finally realized that when I thought even God abandoned me. While feeling grateful for all the affection she got she said to everyone, Thank you so much. She firmed her resolve and thinks in her mind, I want to live once more, together with these people. I will live a different life from before. After some time, while having tea, her father said, You're looking much better. Do you feel better now, Tia? Her father asked. Aristia replied, Yes, I'm sorry for making you worry. Fath. While she was talking, she saw her father looking distant. She stops and changes her wording, Papa. Tia smiled softly, surprised by how much her father liked being called Papa. Her father said, Anyway, I'm relieved. He said, By the way, Tia. Aristia replied, Yes. He asked, Can you tell me what happened at the temple? Tia said, Well. Tia pondered internally. What can I possibly say? I died when I was 17 because of treason, and then I opened my eyes to find out I'm 10 years old again. They're all just memories in my head about the things yet to come. After Aristia doesn't said anything, her father said, While you fainted, God sent a new oracle. The royal palace was quite busy thanks to that. He told Aristia that the oracle granted you a new name. Aristia wonders, a new name? That was given to me by God. That means. Her father said, Aristia Pioneer La Monique. And so, the emperor wishes to see you. She thinks in her mind, oh dear, Tia thought, so this was the reward. They went to the palace. Standing in front of the palace building, her father said, You haven't been to the palace in a long time. Do you remember? Looking at the palace, her days of misery came to her mind and she shivers. The royal palace, where she only remembered misery and dismay. Tia felt a surge of fear. I'm scared, she admitted quietly. She thinks in her mind, I feel like I can hear the mocking laughter already, she thought, her heart pounding. Her father looks at her and she was trembling. He picked her and lifts her up in the sky. Aristia gets surprised. Her father then carries her and went inside the palace. The servants present at the palace saw her father and gets surprised. One of them calls, Sir Monique has arrived. Commander, gasped. Tia flinched. Aristia looks at the guards who were surprised and said to her father, Please let me down, Papa. Her father said to her, It's not that far. Stay still. Feeling blushed, Aristia thinks in her mind, but everyone is looking this way. Her father greets the emperor, Greetings, your majesty, the sole son of the empire, her father said, bowing. The emperor said, Welcome, Sir Monique. And the young lady Monique as well. The 33rd emperor of the Castina Empire, Merkin Lu Shana Castina. The emperor said, I was hoping to discuss some matters with you all, how convenient, since we're all here now. Other people present there were as respected. Duke Arcant de Ras, commander of the 1st Knight Squadron. Duke Ruth de Verita, chancellor. Her father said, We await your word, your majesty. Then the emperor said, I feel there are still those who wish for the demise of this empire. So we must be prepared. As such, I was thinking of increasing the numbers of our soldiers and knights. We'll need funds to support that, and I think increasing taxes will be appropriate. What do you think? The Duke Arcant flinches after hearing that. He stated his opinion. Nad said, What? Recruiting more knights is already trouble enough, but increasing taxes on top of that. Your Majesty, why do you always harass me like this? What did I do? Pointing towards Aristia's father, he said, Whenever there's a new policy like this, I'm the one who gets harassed by all the nobles. This one here is too loyal and says yes to everything. He complained. While laughing, the emperor said, Well, isn't that why I'm telling you this in advance? The duke then said, HMPH. I'm sure there will be opposition. But, alright. If his majesty thinks it's fine. Aristia recalls her memories and thinks in her mind, this won't work. Tia thought, her mind racing. In the past, this policy, it eventually failed and even led to a riot. The increased taxes became a burden for the common people instead of the nobles who should have paid. Though, the emperor added, I would like to hear what the young lady thinks of this matter. The emperor said, I have heard much about your bright mind, Lady Tia. So, what do you think of this policy? After hearing that Aristia complied, she thinks in her mind, I see. They let me hear this on purpose. She tells in her mind, Duke Ruth is a wise chancellor. He would know the problems in this policy, yet he's staying quiet because the emperor is testing me. I already stand out because of the oracle. If I stand out any more than this, they will become more wary of me. But, why so? Aristia stated his opinion that policy should not be implemented, Your Majesty. The empire is expected to go through a severe drought soon. She said, the empire suffers a severe drought every 30 to 40 years. The sign of that coming drought is the below-average harvest that precedes it for years. If this policy is executed, the people of the empire will suffer from starvation for years. While she was talking, she thinks in her mind, I know it will happen, so I must stop this. She said, and this year is the beginning of the signs. Then the emperor asked his chancellor, what do you think? Duke Ruth replied, what the lady has mentioned is true. There are signs of a drought coming, starting this year. However, increasing the military power of the empire is still necessary. The emperor then asked, how will we do that now? Aristia thinks in her mind, I've already spoken too much, and I can't turn back. Recalling events from her past life, she tells, in the past, the second son of Duke Ruth came up with a new policy. I am sorry for him, since he was later recognized for thinking of this policy, but I must think of the people who might starve. Aristia then said, there is a way. By taxing luxury items. Tax luxury items that are not a necessity but used by nobles. The merchants will sell the goods for a price that includes the tax, and in turn, the throne can collect those taxes from the merchants. Duke Ruth smiled after hearing her suggestion. He said, I see. The lady's suggestion is great, Your Majesty. He further explains, luxury items are better for showing off the more expensive they are. If we tax luxury items as the lady has suggested, we will be able to collect the funds without much opposition. Then Emperor said, very well. Come up with a detailed plan and execute the policy. Duke Ruth said, yes, Your Majesty. The Emperor praised Aristia and said, I am truly amazed to see how brilliant you are in person. Aristia complied and said, I am honored, Your Majesty. Then the Emperor said, Lady Tia, I wonder why you didn't speak your full name just now. You know what the meaning of the name is. Did you choose not to speak it because of the eyes here? Aristia replied, please, I do not understand what. The Emperor added, no, of course not. You are a brilliant young lady. He said with a serious face, do you dare to say that you really don't know that a middle name from God means a right to inherit the throne? Aristia looks at the Emperor and realized that the Emperor was no longer looking at his son's future wife. He was looking at his or his son's rival. The stare of an emperor. His hostile eyes look so much like the eyes from someone in the past. The Emperor questioned, you knew that I was testing you. So why didn't you ignore it? Duke Arkant said, Your Majesty. The Emperor continued, if you feigned innocence and foolishness, perhaps you could have avoided my suspicion. Aristia then said, that I couldn't back down for the sake of my own safety when I knew the people of the empire were at risk. She thinks in her mind, a sudden appearance of a possible heir to the throne who is not a royal. Perhaps the Emperor is considering to banish me, or even House Monique. After hearing those words, the Emperor starts laughing. He said while laughing, my. Looks like I've frightened the young lady too much. Do not fear. I don't think of you as a threat to the prince. He said with a relaxed expression, this throne isn't something that can be taken simply with a name. I didn't raise my child to be such a fragile person. Duke Arkant asked, Your Majesty, why did you hold such a grave mood if you weren't going to do anything? The Emperor said to Aristia, you are not fit to be a ruler, child. If I were you, I would have feigned innocence this moment and sent word about the drought through more elusive means. Your heart is too soft and kind to be a ruler. After hearing that, Aristia thinks in her mind, I have a kind heart. I've never heard that in my life. I was always told that I'm a cold, objective person. The Emperor said, an emperor must take care of oneself in order to lead the empire. And so, someone who willingly accepts danger is not fit to be a ruler. However, the Emperor added, your kind heart and brilliance that thinks of the people of this empire are perfect as an empress. And that makes me very sad at this moment. Duke Ruth asked, why do you say so, Your Majesty? The Emperor then said while remembering the prince, you all know very well why. That child grew up as the one and only heir to my throne. And because of that, he has to be the center of attention at all times. He said to Aristia, you're a brilliant young lady who was given a name by God. If you were to be praised, I wonder how that arrogant child will respond. Outside the throne room, the guards greets the prince, Your Highness. Welcome, Your Highness, lesser son of the empire. The prince said, I am here to see the emperor. One of the guard replied, Your Highness, I beg your pardon. The emperor has forbidden anyone from entering at the moment. The prince asked, who is in the audience hall right now? One of them replied, Duke Ruth, Duke Arkant, Marquis Karen, and his young daughter. The prince thinks, they are discussing something important enough to forbid any entry. Tisk, so why is that child allowed in there while I am barred from entering? The prince turns around and starts walking. While going away he thinks, right. It's not like this is the first time. Father has always been strict to me, yet he always treats that child dearly. Back in the throne room, Aristia said while hesitating, I beg your pardon, your majesty. The emperor allowed, go ahead, tell me what you think. Before saying anything Aristia hesitates. Aristia said, I do not wish to be involved with the prince in any way or matter. Meanwhile, while walking the prince remembers Duke Ruth saying, Your Highness, have you heard about Lady Tia? She's only 10 now, but her accomplishments are outstanding. Her etiquette and studies are all perfect to be the partner of a good ruler. The prince gets frustrated by everyone praising Aristia. He thinks in his mind, Lady Tia. Everyone is praising that girl wherever I go. He said to his father in his mind, You should just announce her as your heir instead of me. Back in the throne room, the emperor said, You don't want to be involved. He asked, Why is that? Her father also asked, Tia. Aristia thinks in his mind, I have to make a choice here. I can't repeat my life from the past again. You can't send a girl with a right to inherit the throne to marry a different family or to another country. Yet you're worried about the future if you announce me as the future empress. Then, she asked the emperor, Then, aren't you planning to welcome me as a future queen? The emperor said, That is correct. While Duke Ruth stays silent. While feeling agitated Aristia thinks in her mind, like father, like son. How can they be so alike? Then the emperor asked, But, you are the foretold partner in the oracle, are you not? Asterisk. Aristia replied, We cannot be certain whether I am truly the mentioned partner or not. She said, The oracle mentions the birth of a girl. However, we do not know whether that birth means born at a moment, or if the girl is still in her mother's womb at the time. While remembering Jiun in her mind she thinks, Right. It's certain because the foretold partner is not me. It's the girl loved by the god Vita, a girl who appeared from another world. I was born the year after the oracle. Jiun is a year older than me. The oracle was referring to her. But nobody will believe me even if I say that now. Asterisk. She then said, Please, give me some time, your highness. I will find another solution. If the matter is not urgent at the moment, it is better to step back and assess the situation in order to strive for the betterment of both parties. She added, You've taught me this just a few moments ago, your majesty. And regardless of what you choose, I know I will remain the future wife of the prince for a while. The emperor said, So you've predicted even that. Duke Ruth smiles and praises Arsatai in his mind, what an amazing child. She even surmised that there will be strife among the throne and the royal factions in such a short time. If the engagement is broken now, people will speak of a disagreement between House Monique and the royal throne. And that will be a perfect excuse for the noble faction who opposes the royal throne. Duke Arkant also praises her and thinks, Karen Shore has an amazing daughter. Then the emperor said, Good. The prince will have his coming-of-age ceremony in a few years. I will wait until then. While looking at Aristia he admires her and thinks, This child is only 10. She will grow to be an enviable, brilliant young woman. After some time, while walking in the palace Aristia said to herself, Phew, that was exhausting. I don't think I'll ever get used to His Majesty's imposing aura. My back aches from being so nervous back there. She thinks in her mind, I've bought some time, but I don't know how long this will last. What should I do from now on? While walking Aristia enters the palace garden. Looking at the big tree in the middle she thinks in her mind, This place is. She remembers something and quickly tries to leave. She said to herself, I have to go back. It was a habit of mine to walk this place when I'm thinking. I can't be here. What if I run into someone here? While leaving the garden she heard a voice saying, Who's there? While Aristia was thinking, in a place like this, what if I run into? The voice she heard continued, This is the Emperor's garden. This place is not open to just anyone. While turning Aristia thought, I can never forget that voice. She looks at the prince from the edge of bushes, Prince Ruvalis. She thinks in her mind, why did he have to be here? Freaking out she thinks, oh no, I can't let him see me. He'll definitely get mad at me. Asterisk. Her heart was racing she thinks in her mind, what do I do? Run. The prince then said, do not hide and show yourself. He continued, how impertinent. Did you not hear me? Asterisk. Aristia thinks in her mind, oh no. Don't come here. I need to avoid him first. She prays in her mind, please, don't come this way. A gust of wind came and her hat flew. Aristia tries to catch her hat and she suddenly came in front of the prince. The prince gets surprised by her. He said, you're the daughter of Marquis Karen. Your audience with the emperor is finished. Asterisk. Aristia looking at the prince remains stunned and doesn't say anything. The prince asked, why won't you say anything? He said, You're being rude. I'm sure you know who I am. So why are you behaving like that? Aristia still doesn't say anything. She thinks in her mind, my mouth won't open. My hand, my body, they won't move. The prince asked again, are you not going to answer me? How disrespectful of you. Aristia while stunned thinks in her mind, I can't even turn away from his gaze. The prince then said, how absolutely insolent you are. You think you can keep your head high simply because everyone praises you. Aristia trembles and the prince stops talking. Then he said, well, fine. I see there's no point in speaking to you any more than this. The prince starts walking and went past by Aristia. The prince walks away. After he left, Aristia slumps and falls to the ground. She remembers the prince's words from her past life, lick my shoe. You are nothing to me. Your father is dead. Feeling distressed, she thinks in her mind, I have to escape this. I have to escape this cruel fate. I can't repeat that life, not again. For myself, for my father, I will continue to fight and get away from all this. Going towards the Monique estate in the carriage, the coachman said, Sir, we will arrive at the Monique estate soon. Alandis said, go faster. He said to H. Suzelf, Aristia la Monique. I look forward to this. Back at Monique household, Aristia asked, what did you say, Lena? Who is here? Lena replied, it's Sir Alandis de Verita. I showed him to the guest lounge for now. How should I proceed? Aristia thinks in her mind, Alandis de Verita, the younger son of Duke Ruth de Verita. In the past, he came up with the luxury tax and became renowned as a young genius. He was one of the famous people in the empire along with the master swordsman, Karsane de Ras. I heard he was smarter than his own father. He invented and improved several policies all by himself. Recalling her past life, she thinks, I've never met him before, but I was always amazed at his talent that surpassed his renown. Walking down the stairs, Aristia thinks in her mind, but now UCH a person is here to see me, not my father. She remembers in her mind, oh, when I went to the palace last time, I suggested his luxury tax to the emperor as if it was my idea. She thinks in her mind, what if he already thought of the tax at this age? Asterisk. While panicking, she thinks, and what if he's here to question me about how I knew it? She then reassured herself and thinks, be calm, Tia. Nothing is certain yet. Entering the room, Aristia said, I've made you wait. Greetings, Sir Alandis. I am Aristia la Monique. Alandis said, greetings, Lady Aristia. I am Alandis de Verita. Aristia said, please, have a seat. After looking at him, Aristia thinks in her mind, he has emerald eyes, the eyes of the Verita family bloodline. I think he was 3 years older than me. While drinking tea, Alandis said, I'm sure this must have been a surprise for you. I should have sent word beforehand, but I couldn't wait any longer. Aristia replied, I see. Alandis said, actually, I am here to ask you a question, Lady Aristia. She asked, what is it? While looking at her, he said, do you know about the new policy that will take effect soon? She thinks in her mind, he's getting to the point right away. I should act like I've at least heard of it instead of feigning ignorance. She calmly said, you mean the luxury tax? I've heard of it from my father. I think it's a tax for luxury items that nobles purchase. Alandis, surprised by her words, asked, you think? That's odd. Do you not know about it? Aren't you the one who suggested it? Aristia said, that's. She thinks while talking, so this is it. He knew everything from the beginning. Alandis said, so, you did suggest it? Aristia said, yes, it's true, I did. She thinks in her mind, what should I do? In the end, it's true that I used another's idea as if it was my own. She thinks, I must apologize. Alandis said, I see. While excitedly jumping, he grabs Aristia's hand and said, I knew it. My guess was right. He said, I heard you just turned 10 this year. You must be a true genius. I'm so amazed. Aristia feels confused and her mind doesn't process anything because Alandis is so close to her. While the maids were looking at them, Aristia said, yes sir. Alandis said to her, that's so formal. You can just call me Alandis. He asked, may I call you by your name as well, Aristia? I haven't met any peers who I can talk to on the same level. I feel like I can discuss things with you. Looking at him, Aristia thinks in her mind, his smile is so bright and genuine. Alandis ASID, so, try calling my name now. She thinks in her mind, nobody has ever smiled like this for me. She said, then. Alandis. She then asked, how did sir? I mean, how did you know that I suggested the luxury tax? Alandis told her that, my father started reviewing that policy one day after he came back from the palace. He looked really serious, but I've never seen him study anything like that policy before. He said, so it's easy to assume that someone suggested it at the palace, right? Aristia replied, that's true. Alandis then said, yes, yes. And that day, father mentioned, He stops for a moment and then he said, I mean, he praised you. My father is very stingy on approval, so I rarely hear him praise someone. But that day, he couldn't stop praising you for a while. It was like you were his own daughter. After hearing that Aristia thinks in her mind, so he wasn't here to accuse me. But still. She said, actually, the luxury tax isn't my idea. Alandis asked, what do you mean by that? Aristia replied, well, I read it. From a book. He then asked, really? What was the title of the book? Aristia said, it didn't have a title. She said, I found the book by chance in the royal library, but when I tried to find it again, it was gone. While talking she thinks in her mind, I can't tell him that it's his idea from the future. Alandis said with a thoughtful expression, is that so? Aristia looks at him and thinks, he seems disappointed. She thinks in her mind, I suppose we won't be calling each other by name now. He only did that out of respect since he thought the policy was my idea. While taking a sip Alandis said, I see. So it was from a book. Aristia thinks in her mind, I was so flustered by his friendly attitude just a second ago, and now I feel disappointed too. The heart can be so fickle. She said, that's how it is, Sir Alandis. After that Alandis said cheerfully, wait, what's this? Perhaps you thought I would take back my offer of calling each other casually because the policy isn't your idea. While surprised after hearing that Aristia said, but. Alandis continued, it's not important who thought of the idea first. The point is that you confidently spoke your thoughts in front of that scary emperor. While getting close to Aristia Alandis said, I've taken a liking to you. He said, either way, I understand that you're bound by certain circumstances. So, here's my suggestion. When you are freed from those circumstances one day, will you marry me? Aristia gets shocked after hearing that she shouted what? Alandis said, so, how about it? I'm quite the catch, you know. Well, you'll learn more about me in due time. While shocked Aristia thinks in her mind, the genius of the century, wants to spend time with me, and even proposed to me at our first meeting. What is going on? Someone, please tell me what's happening. While Aristia was confused Alandis said, so, what do why? Someone interrupts him and said, not ever. Both of them looks towards Aristia's father, who was standing at the door. Aristia said, father. Her father said, Tia, come here. Alandis said, greetings, Marquis Karen. Her father asked Alandis, isn't this the first time you've met my daughter? He said, proposing on the first day doesn't seem plausible. Alandis said, I fell for her at first sight. Marquis said, you are only 13 this year, are you not? Alandis said, love is not restricted by age, is it? It looks like there was a war going on between Alandis and Marquis Karen. Looking at them Aristia thinks in her mind, what should I do? I don't think I can interfere between them. Her father said, Sir Alandis. I am not here for idle chatter. Alandis replied, and I am not joking here, sir. Looking towards Aristia he said, I have eyes and ears as well. I know that there's a possibility that Aristia will not become the Empress. He asked, and what will everyone think if the engagement with the royal throne is called off? He said, people will whisper that perhaps the daughter of House Monique has a fault. After hearing that her father aggressively said, I will not stand and watch nor allow that to happen. Aristia looks at her father admirably, father. Alandis asked, how will you stop nobles from talking to each other? He said, after the engagement is called off, House Monique's reputation will plummet. And what's more, only second-rate and good-for-nothings aiming only for the title of Marquis will begin to circle her. Aristia grabs her father's robe and thinks in her mind, father will be humiliated because of me. I didn't think that far ahead. Then Alandis said, what do you think, Marquis Karen? If you would allow me to, I will become a good shield when the time comes. As the son of Duke Ruth, our families are on the same side. Her father said firmly, my daughter's opinion comes first and foremost. Alandis said while smiling, of course. Her father then said, fine then, if you say so. I will approve of you as her friend, and not her fiancé. He said with a serious face, but only if you pass my one condition. Alandis asked, condition? Yes. While sitting on a sofa Alandis whined about, this is bad. I need to be strong enough to defeat not just one knight, but a whole squad. I'm doomed. Aristia giggles, hee hee. Alandis said, "Don't laugh. Our family has been bad with the sword for generations. My father and brother are both bad at dancing or sports. I didn't even try because I thought I would shame myself." Aristia said while imagining, "I see why House Verita has a lot of civil officers instead." She said, "If you didn't suddenly propose marriage out of the blue, then this wouldn't have happened." Alandis said, "But I'm being serious." He said, "I'm sorry, Aristia. I've made a deal without even asking your opinion first." Aristia said, "I accept your apology." Alandis smiles and said, "Thank you, Lady Aristia." Aristia thinks in her mind, "Alandis, he's polite and kind." While cheering himself up, Alandis said, "Now then, I'll have to train hard starting tomorrow. I have to be acknowledged as your friend for now." Aristia smiles and thinks, he seems like a good person. While shaking hands with Aristia, Alandis said, "To our new friendship, Aristia. I know we'll be just fine." Aristia tells in her mind, "Everyone has a friend. But I was not allowed to have anyone in the past. A friend, someone who can stand with me on equal grounds. And now, I finally have one, too." She then joyfully said, "Yes. I think so too." The royal palace. Heron said, "Your Highness, here are all the books you were looking for. The rest seem to be at the West Library. Shall I get them?" The prince was reading a book. Some students came there and while surprised they said, "Ah. Greetings, Your Highness, future son of the Empire." The prince replied, "Greetings." While going away one of them whispered, "That surprised me. I ran into him this morning too. I didn't think he would still be here." The other one said, "Let's come back later." After they left, Prince said, "Heron." Heron said, "Yes." The prince said, "Normally, a noble that visits the royal palace wouldn't forget my face or not know about me, right?" Heron said, "Of course." He said, "Not just the nobles, anyone who enters this place surely knows you by appearance alone." Then the prince asked, "Then, why would someone refuse to greet me and instead stare at me without a word?" Heron asked, "Pardon?" While laughing he said, "Haha, that can't happen. It's impossible to enter this palace without any etiquette. Who would show such disrespect in front of you, the prince?" The prince said, "Right." Heron asked, "What do you mean by that, Your Highness? Perhaps, did someone really do that?" The prince said, "It's nothing." While remembering his encounter with Aristia he thinks, "So that girl did simply ignore me. How impudent." Back at the Marquis Manor, Aristia visits the training ground. She looks for Alandis there and thinks, "Is Alandis not here yet? There are more people than I thought. I can't see all the way to the back." A knight came to Aristia and said, "Lady Aristia. Good morning." Aristia looks at him and thinks in her mind, "Oh no, who is this?" The knight asked, "What brings you to the training grounds?" Aristia said, You are, Sir Liege." Liege said, "I'm honored that you remember me." The other knight busy in training heard them talking. They all came rushing to Aristia and greets her. "It's been a while, my lady. Welcome. My lady. My lady." Aristia gets baffled from the crowd. She said, "Oh no. Everyone, good morning." She thinks in her mind, "I don't know who any of these knights are." They asked, "Are you here to see the commander?" "He's not here yet. May we help you with anything? Would you like to wait here?" One of them said, "You came here early in the morning last time, too." Aristia gasped and remembers that embarrassing memory. Sai Liege asked, "Did you have a nightmare?" While freaking out Aristia said, "Oh, He asked, "Are you alright today?" Aristia said while feeling embarrassed, "That's that time. I'm so ashamed of that morning." She said, "Everyone, please forget about that." She remembers in her mind, "I cried so loudly in front of everyone." The knight happily said, "Yes, my lady." They said, "If you wish, we will be careful not to mention it from now on. Though, we don't mind seeing you like that, my lady. Please don't mind it too much." Sir Liege said, "If you wish to observe, please take a seat here. The morning sun can still be harsh." Aristia thinks in her mind, "I've never greeted them properly until now. They all seem to be good people." After a while, Alandis came rushing to Aristia and said, "Aristia. Good morning. Are you here to cheer for me?" Aristia said, "Your training starts today, right? Do your best, Alandis." He said, "Yes, thank you. I'll have to work hard to be your love. I mean, to be your friend." The knight present there looks at him jealously. Her father also came to the training grounds. One of the knights said, "Everyone, gather around." While sitting and watching them train, Aristia said, "Lena. I've always only read books, but I've never thought of visiting a place such as this. Lena replied, well, you've always been quite frail. Aristia said, yes, but I never knew there were so many people training here. While Aristia was looking towards her father, Lena said, Marquis Karen is the commander of the second squad of the Castina Empire. They are the shields that guard the empire under the Lord's commands. While training, Alandis waves towards Alandis and her father glares at him. Aristia thinks in her mind, knights, shields that guard the empire. After some time, Aristia enters the room and said, Father, have some tea. Her father said, yes, thank you. While having tea, Aristia said, Father, I have a favor to ask. Her father takes a sip and said, go on. Aristia said with a straight face, I wish to learn how to wield a sword. Her father said, you can't even run without falling. How will you hold a sword? I don't recommend it, the voice of reason echoed. Aristia said, but I really want to learn. Her father said, you were born with a frail body. Harsh training will only strain you even more, came the cautionary response. Aristia pleaded earnestly, I'll work really hard. I want to overcome my weak physique. To build up my strength, at least, please. Can't there be some way I can learn? Her father inquired, before that, let me ask you one thing. Tia, does it have anything to do with the prince? He said, before, you said you didn't want to be involved with him at all. Aristia thinks in her mind, it's true. But I can't tell father about all that. About what I went through before, and how I already died once. He wouldn't believe me. I thought, struggling with the truth I couldn't share. Her father suddenly asked, Tia, perhaps, did you remember something from before? While shocked, Aristia thinks in her mind, what? Remember? About what? What is father asking me about? Does? Her heart raced and she thinks, does father know my past? Right, I might not be the only one to return from the future. If father remembers the miserable past, just like me, then, what must I do? Her father clarified, about when you were little. Her tension eased slightly and she asked, when I was little. She thinks in her mind, oh, he's talking about something else. Phew. She asked her father, but, what do you mean when I was little? I met the prince for the first time a few days ago at the palace. Then I suppose not. Never mind what I just said, her father said, brushing it off. Returning to the original topic, he asked, so then, what is your reason? She blurted out, I don't want to get married, father. I just want to stay like this and live happily with you, papa. After saying that, she immediately regretted it. What did I just say? Oh no. She thinks in her mind, at this rate, I didn't just turn back into a child's body. Even my mind is becoming childish. How could I say something so childish? After that, her father extends both his hand and said, Tia, come here. Aristia walks to her father and hugs him. Her father, while hugging her, said, I thought you were all grown up now. But you're still a baby. Her father said, right. If that's what you wish for, let's do that. But I am a strict teacher, so prepare yourself, he warned with a smile. Yes, papa, she agreed eagerly, relief and excitement filling her voice. The next morning. Good morning, Aristia. Alandis greeted her cheerfully. Aristia said, hello, Alandis. He asked, are you here to cheer for me today as well? Aristia giggles and said, hee. No, not really. Alandis said, so I was wrong. All the knight present there looks towards them. I'm going to start training today too, she announced. Alandis said, really? Wow. This is great. He hugs Aristia excitedly. All the knight present there feeling jealous thinks, why that little fool? I heard someone mutter under their breath. Then, we can be together every morning from now on. Alandis said, his excitement bubbling over. Alandis, you should let go first. Aristia suggested gently. Aristia thinks in her mind, Alandis, he must have been nervous all by himself here, right? I'm really nervous too, she admitted quietly. While they were hugging each other, her father came and separated both of them. Her father cut through the moment and said, what are you doing, Sir Alandis? Alandis explained hastily, I didn't mean anything more, sir, I was just happy to learn together with Aristia. He commanded, enough, you can start by running 30 laps. Tia, 10 laps for you. Huh, both of them exclaimed, surprised by the challenge. Alandis chuckled nervously, and said, haha, looks like I'm not very welcomed at the moment. Aristia wondered, will I be able to finish 10 laps? Huffing and puffing, they began to run. You can do it, Aristia, Alandis told her. Even as my legs started to give out. Meanwhile, at the Ras estate, his wife said, you've come unusually early today. Duke Arkant replied, I'm back, my dear. I want to spend some time with my dear wife once in a while. His wife said, "My, so smooth words, yet you always neglect me otherwise," she teased him. She said, "I heard you had an audience with the emperor. Is he in good health?" she asked, changing the subject. He replied while smiling, "The same as ever. He's always been strong, though he seems to miss his younger sister that he hasn't seen in a while." His wife replied while surprised, "Really? How unusual." He gently said, "Of course, you are the only family His Majesty has left. What do you think? How about visiting the palace sometime soon? He'd like it if you visit him first once in a while." His wife said, "Well, I do wish to. But I'm busy these days, and my body feels heavy." While they were talking, someone quickly opens the door and shouted, "Mother." He asked, "Is brother back yet?" He said he would buy a new horse for me to ride. Sign's excitement was palpable. His mother gently reminded him, "Sign, a duke's son shouldn't be so inelegant. Please mind your manners." "Oh, you're back, father," Sign exclaimed as he noticed his father entering the room. His father asked, raising an eyebrow, "Are you listening to your mother at all?" Sign apologized quickly. "Yes, I'm sorry." His father informed him, "Kajin will be late today. He said he would send the horse first, so it should be arriving soon." Sign exclaimed, already rushing towards the door, "Then I'm going to welcome it now. I can't wait. I want to see it now." "Oh dear, that child. Don't run inside the house like that." His mother called after him, concerned. "I told you not to speak like that. Stop, Sign. Sign. Karsane de Ras." Her voice thundered through the hall. Her husband commented in his mind, "You've got quite a temper too, my dear." With a hint of amusement in his voice he said, "Well, it's good that he's healthy, but I suppose his liveliness is too much to handle." His wife replied with a knowing glance, "That's because he takes after a certain somebody." Duke Arkant then said, "It would be better for him to visit the palace and be a playmate for the prince. Don't you think so?" She asked, "Are you actually suggesting that?" Her husband pointed out, "You are the one and only royal princess and younger sister of His Majesty the Emperor. That makes you the prince's aunt. Ernia Shana de Ras, first princess and Duchess Ernia." He said, "Sign and the prince are pretty much cousins, so it's not like we need to be wary of any disapproving eyes. Isn't that so?" Duchess Ernia questioned, "Who is being wary of who?" Her glare sharp. Her husband then said, "If that's not the case, then it should be fine to visit the palace once in a while." After some time at Palace Hall, while walking, Duchess Ernia thinks in her mind, "That snake," Ernia thought to herself. "He's starting to take after my brother. He knows everything, yet he says something like that. Have Sign spend time with the prince. That won't do. Cousins are not." While walking she notices the prince. "Duchess Ernia," a voice interrupted her. "Here he comes," she muttered under her breath, preparing herself. She greeted in her tone formal, "Greetings, dear prince, future son of the empire." The prince said, "It's been a while. What brings you here today?" She explained, "I am an outsider now that I'm a married woman. I've just come to see how the family is doing since I haven't visited in a long time. I won't stay for long." The prince responded kindly, "Please, don't put it like that. I'm sure father would be delighted if you visit often." She replied, "Thank you for your kind words," her voice softening. Looking at the books Heron was carrying, she asked, "Have you finished reading all those books? Those history books are known to be difficult even for grown-ups to comprehend." The prince said, "Oh, well, I've always been reading these," the prince said modestly. Heron remarked in awe, "With this, the prince has finished all the books in the royal palace." She said, "How amazing." "Well, in terms of simply reading words, that is," Duchess Ernia interjected, a hint of criticism in her tone. The prince said gently, "Please, you need not hesitate if you wish to say something." She said, "Oh no, how could I dare do such a thing? Please, do not worry. You are, in fact, my aunt, Duchess Ernia," the prince reassured her. She said, "Then, please excuse me, as I shall share my opinion as your aunt," Duchess Ernia began, her tone turning serious. "To think that you would be satisfied just by finishing those books. I cannot hide my disappointment at your laziness, dear prince." Heron tries to speak, "Howdy." The prince interrupts him and said, "Is that how I seem?" The prince stammered, taken aback. She began saying, "Yes. Since at your age, His Majesty excelled not only in books but also in strength and physique. He used to say it was nothing special, especially for someone who will rule the empire. It seems you still have a long way ahead of you, dear prince. Especially if you wish not to tarnish the reputation of the late Empress prior. She would be proud up there in the heavens only if you work hard, don't you think?" After hearing that the prince's face looks serious and as Duchess Ernia walks past by him she continued. In any case, you are the only child and heir of His Majesty now. Oh, but I suppose it's all fine. I heard that the young lady from House Monique, who is to be your fiancé, is quite amazing. Apparently, she is the one who suggested the luxury tax. I'm sure His Majesty the Emperor must be relieved to know that such an excellent Empress will support you in the future. Must be quite a relief to know, she murmured sarcastically. Heron said, my prince, please don't mind that. You're already doing more than. He tried to console him. She said it's not enough. The prince snapped, frustration boiling over. He said, really, there is not even a single day when I am not compared with her. Meanwhile Aristia was training, hup, hup, hup. The prince chanted, what is the difference between her and me? What makes her so different? He questioned himself, the weight of expectations bearing down on him. Ouch! Aristia winced as the wooden sword clattered to the ground. Alandis asked with concern, what's wrong, Aristia? She replied, looking down at her palms, my hands are stinging. Alandis said, take off your gloves. Oh no. All your blisters have opened up, he pointed out, pulling her hand gently to inspect the damage. How did you bear with this until now? It must have hurt. Lena exclaimed, my lady, you have to get treated right away. Alandis offered, oh, I'll do it. Here, give me your hand. While caressing her hands he said, this will sting, but try to bear with it a bit more. All right, Aristia agreed, bracing herself. Looking at them Lena said to herself, oh my. Alandis suggested, how about you take a break from training while your hand heals? Aristia protested, shaking her head, no, I can't take a break just for this. Alandis remarked with a chuckle, oh, you're suddenly even more energetic. You collapsed after running only 2 laps just a while ago. Aristia said, you too, Alandis. Pathetically weak stamina. Her eyes lighting up she said, actually, it's because father gave me a sword. Alandis asked, while surprised, oh, really? The Marquis? Aristia said, yes, although it's a sword for children, it was the first time father gave me anything, so I would have been happy with whatever it was, she explained, smiling. Alandis said, you really like Marquis Karen, don't you? Huh, Aristia responded. But before the conversation could continue, Lena, the maid, interrupted, her voice filled with outrage. Hold on, Sir League. Have you seen Our Lady's hands? How could you make her train like that until her delicate hands turned to that pulp? Sir League replied calmly, that's normal in the beginning. The blisters on your hands will burst several times, and you won't be able to handle a sword properly until those blisters turn into calluses. He continued, of course her hand would be hurt from training. That's why I didn't want the lady to start training. Lena insisted, clearly upset, Our Lady's health has always been very delicate, ever since she was born. How can you make her train just like the others who have always been healthy? Because the commander ordered us not to go easy on her. Sir League countered, standing his ground. Lena snapped and said, you're so stubborn. Are you always this cruel, Sir League? Sir League said, are you saying a knight who protects the empire should go soft and easy? Sir League retorted, his voice firm. Lena said, if boiling you will soften you up, I say you need 10 more days in hot water. Lena shot back, her temper flaring. Aristia intervened, trying to soothe her, Lena, calm down. Don't get mad. Alandis also tries to calm down Sir League and he said, you should calm down a bit too, Sir League. Aristia said, I'm alright, Lena. I started this because I wanted to. I've made you worry, Lena. I'm sorry, and thank you. Lena's calms down from Aristia's gentle words. She jumps and hugs Aristia and said, my lady. Oh dear, to think that such a young and delicate lady would put herself through such hardship. I'll have to ask the chef for an extra special nutritious meal for. Og. What's wrong? Sir League suddenly shouted. Came the panicked reply, someone's been injured during practice. Sir League added, the commander and captain are both not here though. Aristia urged, Lena, call the doctor, hurry. Aristia asked frantically, are you alright? How deep is the wound? I'm fine. This is. The injured person groaned, clearly in pain. Sir League commanded, stop the bleeding first. Aristia asked, you're bleeding so much. Are you really alright? Aristia pleaded, please, try not to move. I'm alright, this is nothing. The injured person insisted, though clearly struggling. Aristia said, we've called for a doctor now, so please bear with it just a bit more. Now, you must wait inside the mansion first. All the night were looking shocked as they were looking at an angel. An angel, someone murmured, Here, return to the arms of Vita with me. An angel stands before me. I'm being welcomed by an angel. Looks like. Aristia said, Kya, please, hang on. I've had a good life. The injured person muttered weakly, their voice fading. Doctor, I saw an angel. They mumbled as they drifted into unconsciousness. Doctor said, trying to keep them conscious. Please hang on. It's too early for that. Aristia said, I didn't know people could get injured like that while training, shaken by the incident. Alandis asked gently, indeed. Were you surprised? We should finish treating your hands, too, Alandis reminded her. Aristia said, oh, I almost forgot during the commotion. Thank you, Alandis. I'm all right now, Aristia assured him. Because your gloves are all worn out. Mine are quite sturdy and very protective. You should use these for a while, Alandis offered, holding out his gloves. Aristia asked, concerned, but, what about you? Are your hands all right? Alandis admitted with a wry smile. He said, no, not at all. Actually, I feel like I'm going to die. My hands are so worn that I don't have the strength to hold a fork properly after training. Then you should, Aristia began, but Alandis cut her off. He said, but, Aristia, it pains me even more to see you suffer. It's no use if you collapse before you master how to handle that sword, right? He said softly. Alandis, Aristia whispered, touched by his words. Alandis encouraged her, we both have to work hard. All right, Aristia agreed, her resolve strengthened. As she looked at him, Aristia wondered, how can he be so kind? Did I know anyone who was so considerate of others like he is? Have I ever treated someone else like this before? Being considerate and being kind, they were simply a means to achieve one's goal. Alandis, you've taught me so many things, Aristia thought to herself, feeling grateful. Alandis suddenly called out, looking towards the window. Aristia, look. It's the first snow. Aristia thinks in her mind, the first seasons of experienced after coming back in time. So pretty, Aristia murmured, captivated by the falling snowflakes. Alandis said, it's already winter. Aristia thinks in her mind, every day is a new day. And they're passing by so peacefully, she reflected. Alandis asked, breaking the silence, Aristia, what do you like? Aristia asked, a bit confused, what do I like? Do you mean a color, or food? Something like that. Alandis replied, anything that you can think of. Aristia remarked, your question is so abstract. If I had to choose, I suppose that's snow. Why? Because it's pretty, Alandis asked, curious. Aristia explained, while her eyes still on the falling snow. She said, because it looks warm and soft. And it also looks like it would be sweet somehow. Alandis said, while deep in thought, white as snow, warm, and sweet. Aristia asked, turning to look at him, why are you asking this? It's a secret, Alandis replied with a playful smile. 3 months later. While handing over the gift, Alandis said, it's my gift, Aristia. Aristia asked, what's this? Alandis said while smiling, the thing you said you liked last time. While opening the gift, Aristia thinks in her mind, what I like. Wasn't that several months ago? I think I said I like the snow. Would there be snow in a box like this? Aristia looks inside the box and said, wow. It's so pretty, snow white chocolate. Alandis told her that, you said you liked something white, warm, and sweet as snow, so I made it. Aristia joyfully said, I've never seen this before. So chocolate can be made in white too. Alandis smirkingly said, well, not before. But I invented it, since chocolate fits the conditions you said perfectly. While admiring him, Aristia thinks in her mind, wow. He invented this. What a genius. She thanked him saying, thank you, Alandis. It's so precious, I don't know how I can eat this. Alandis said, please, enjoy it as much as you want. Because I've got one more thing. With a hint of surprise, Aristia asked, really? Alandis said while smiling, and that would be? He said, me, my skin is white, my heart is warm and can even be hot at times. And what's more, I'm also sweet. Aristia said while smiling, Alandis, you're really. Then Alandis picks a sweat and extends his hand towards Aristia and said, now, say, ah. Aristia said while surprised, I can help myself. He said, hurry, my arms hurt. She said, but this is embarrassing. While whining, Alandis said, come on. Just once, think of all the work I did to make this. Aristia said before opening her mouth, gee, fine. She thinks in her mind, he's so sly. I can't refuse if he says that. Alandis said, so, do you like it? She replied, yes, it's everything that I wished for. Thank you, Alandis. While they were talking, maids and other knights were listening to them. But that was the beginning of everything. That evening, standing in front of lots of gifts, Aristia asked, What is all of this, everyone? The knights around her said, They're gifts for you, my lady. We heard that you like something white, warm, and sweet. While surprised, Aristia asked, What? How did you? Sir League told, So we each prepared something of our own. They asked, Which one do you fancy? One of them said, You would choose my cake, right? A scarf can't be sweet even if it's white and warm. Other one said, What are you talking about? You can tell this color is sweet and warm just by looking at it. They argued between each other, You fools. White lace is the truest representation of how young ladies dream of something sweet and warm. While taking a breath of relief, Aristia said to herself, Phew, that surprised me. I wonder how that happened all of a sudden. Did someone overhear what I was talking about with Alandis? While she was busy in thoughts, Lena came. She called, My lady. Aristia said, Yes. With a pop sound, cotton candy appeared. Aristia asked, What's this, Lena? Lena said, Cotton candy. She said, We heard that you like something white, warm, and sweet. This is the masterpiece that all the maids made together. Aristia said, Thank you. This is sweet too, right? After that, other servants also present gifts to Aristia. Oh, my lady. I heard that you were looking for something white and sweet. My lady, here too. My lady. While panicking by this sudden situation, Aristia thinks in her mind, just how many people heard our conversation. I haven't even started the afternoon training, yet I'm already exhausted. She suddenly heard a voice saying Tia. She replied, Yes. She looks towards the voice and said, Oh, father. Alandis. She asked her father, Did you have a safe trip? Her father replied, Yes. While feeling relief, Aristia thinks in her mind, Phew, thank goodness. This will be over since father is here now. Her father also brings a gift and show it to Aristia. Her father clears his throat and said, Ahem, I've heard that you wanted something white, warm, and sweet. He said, I've thought about it for a while. I hope it's what you've wished for. Aristia said, Wow, it's white tea. Thank you, Papa. She thinks in her mind, Oh dear. Even father. Alandis asked, Which gift do you like the most? Lena asked, My lady. Please tell us honestly. The knights asked, Now, my lady. Please choose one. While pressured by everyone's questions, she thinks in her mind, Oh no. This might become troublesome if I say something carelessly. While panicking, she said, every. Alandis interrupts her and said, You can't say something like, everything, alright. Aristia talks in her mind, Don't be so quick to notice. She thinks in her mind, But no matter how I think about it, it has to be. She said, I really do appreciate all the gifts that everyone gave me. But, this chocolate was made by Alandis for months after careful development. And Alandis is the one who asked me what I like in the first place. So, the chocolate. While jumping with joy, Alandis said, I knew it. I knew you would choose mine. He said, Thank you, Aristia. You're the only one who acknowledges my hard work. Seriously, I had to work so hard with the chef while I developed this. Everyone glared at him after this. Her father then said to Alandis, You were so confident in the beginning that you will come to defeat a whole squad one day. But it looks like you've had so much free time on your hands that you could develop chocolate. He aggressively said, I'll take that as your wish to train even harder starting tomorrow, Sir Alandis. While feeling pressured, Alandis said, What? I think there is some kind of misunderstanding. Sir League also said, We will all help with training the young duke. Lena said, Just wait. We're going to beat you next year, Sir Alandis. While gasping, Aristia thinks in her mind, They're doing this again next year. Several years later, people in the Castina Empire would give white chocolate to the person they love. That was the beginning of how White Day came to be. In the palace, Heron said while holding a plate full of chocolates, Your Highness, you should rest a bit. The prince asked, What is that, Heron? Heron replied, It's chocolate. I had it prepared since it helps to relieve stress. The prince said, What are you talking about? You know very well that I despise sweets. He then remembered a woman in his mind saying, Prince Ruvalis. Heron replied, Of course, I did have that in mind. He told, I asked the chefs to make them less sweet, so they should be alright. The prince takes a bite and Heron asked, How is it? The prince replied, It's bitter. In a distant memory, the prince was standing near a tree sobbing and sniffing. He then heard a voice saying, Your Highness. A lady with red hair came and said, It's such a nice day. So why do you look so sad? She extends her hand towards the prince and said, would you like to go on a walk with me? Well, your highness. The prince said, all right. He tells in his mind, a ray of sunlight shining through the lonely, shadowy branches, that was my impression of Yeremia La Monique. At another time, Aristia's mother said, your highness. My daughter, Tia, please take. While on her deathbed she hardly speaked. She said, I hope you will take care of her. The prince shouted, Marchioness. Marchioness told her that, with you, I know she'll be safe. Then the prince shouted, please, wake up. Marchioness Yeremia, Marchioness Yeremia. Heron called, your highness. Are you all right? The prince came back to his senses. He said, yes, looks like I dozed off for a moment. He takes a sigh. Heron said, your highness, the emperor has sent a message for you. He wishes you to join him for afternoon tea. The prince asked, my father. While walking in the palace hall he said to Heron, this is unusual. He usually calls for me only when necessary. I wonder what's gotten into him today. While walking the prince looked inside the palace garden and he saw Marchioness Yeremia. It was a memory from his mind. He thinks in his mind, it's already been more than 5 years since then, and you're no longer here. I wonder why I dreamt about such a long time ago. He then walked to near the big tree. He saw someone standing behind the tree. It was Aristia. He looks at her and thinks in her mind, that's her daughter. He wondered, why is she here? Looking at her he thinks, she looks just like her mother except for the silver hair. It's almost annoying, even her expression that doesn't seem to fit her age. He walks close to her and Aristia notices him and she gets startled. The prince asked, you, why have you come here again? Aristia, startled by him, was about to fall. The prince thinks in his mind, this again. He said, I've thought this before, but you're quite disrespectful. He told her, do you dare to say that you don't know who I am? Aristia hesitantly spoke, your highness. He said, so you're going to answer me this time? He asked, so, why are you here? She said, I am here because His Majesty requested my presence here. The prince said, my father did. He thinks in his mind, I see. So that's what is going on. No wonder I thought father was being unusual, this was the reason. He said, sounds like this will be an uncomfortable meeting. A cup of tea should suffice. He thinks in his mind, she's my fiancé. While having tea Aristia continuously trembles. The prince looking at her trembling thinks in his mind, why is this child trembling so much? Looking at her he thinks, like a rabbit thrown in front of a predator. What did I ever do to her? Aristia suddenly dropped the cup and tea spilled on the prince's attire. Oh. The prince grits his teeth and stands up. Aristia panickingly said, your highness. The prince turns to the other side and said, I'll take my leave first. Then the prince starts walking. Heron asked, your highness, are there any burns? Your clothes are. The prince replied to Heron, it's fine. The prince thinks while leaving, how am I supposed to talk with someone like her? She took everything that I couldn't have, no matter how hard I tried, and she doesn't even remember taking any of it. After the prince left Aristia thinks to herself, why can't I calm down? I thought I already accepted this new life. Red, just like blood. Perhaps I'm still not free from the pain of my past. Back at the Monique Manor, Aristia was sitting in the shade of a tree deep in her thoughts. Alandis said, phew, good job, Aristia. She said, oh, yes, you too. The heat must have been exhausting for you. Alandis said, I think you're more exhausted than I am. Did something happen when you went to the palace last time? Aristia said, no, nothing happened. He said, but you've been lost in your thoughts the whole day. It's fine if you don't want to tell me. Aristia said to herself, why can't you just pretend to not notice? He continued, still, you can rely on me when you need someone when you're alone. Because for you, I'm always willing to help. Alandis smiles after saying that. Looking at him Aristia thinks in her mind, Alandis. Thank you, you're such a good friend, really. Alandis said, phew, anyway, the weather is really hot. I think I might faint from dehydration at this rate. Aristia said to him, then, why don't we take a break inside for a bit? He said, I'd be glad to. Thank you for the invitation. While they were going inside the manor building someone called, my lady. It was Sai League. He came and asked, could you spare me a moment of your time? Alandis said, I'll go ahead and wait inside. Aristia looking towards him said, yes. All right. After Alandis went ahead Aristia asked Sir League, what is it, Sir League? With a serious face Sir League said, please don't get too close to Sir Alandis. Aristia asked with a hint of surprise, what do you mean? Sir League said, I am a bit suspicious of his reasons for training his sword skills here. Even if we are of the same faction, he is from a house of officers, and they have often disagreed with us knights on many occasions. Political relations can be harsh. If you let feelings muddle your judgment, you may get betrayed later on. Please be careful. That's. Remembering Alandis in her mind, Aristia thinks, what he said is right, but Alandis is. Elna came to where they were talking and said, don't you mind Sir League either, my lady. Who knows what kind of horrible training he'll make you do next time. Glaring at him, Lena said, because he's a cold-blooded, merciless knight. While Lena and Sir League starts arguing, Aristia left. She thinks in her mind, I do want to disagree, but Sir League is right. And I have to be careful not to stand out right now. But in the study room, Alandis was browsing through books. He notices Aristia and said, you're back, Aristia. She replied, yes. While having tea, Alandis said, ah, the tea you brew is the best. Aristia said, really? I'm glad you like it. Aristia thinks in her mind while reading a book, right. Alandis is a genius, and his family has been ministers for generations. Even if he's training now, in the end, he also will become. While she was busy in her thoughts, Alandis asked, what are you thinking about again? Aristia replied, oh, it's nothing. By the way, Alandis. She asked, what do you want to be when you grow up? He replied, well, I haven't decided yet. But I'll probably work as an administrative official. Learning the sword is quite fun, but I find that using my mind is more interesting. Aristia said, I see. While feeling sad, she thinks in her mind, I knew it. We can only spend time together like this while we're young. Once he grows up and begins attending social parties soon, we'll grow apart in the end. Alandis asked, Aristia, are you disappointed because I don't want to become a knight? Hiding her blushed face with book, Aristia said, no. Not at all. Alandis said, you are, aren't you? Am I right? You're lonely, aren't you? Aristia said, don't tease me, Alandis. She thinks in her mind, Sir League was right. Since when did I think about Alandis so much? I have to keep my distance from him. The books suddenly fall. Aristia said, ah, look what happened because you keep saying strange things. Alandis said, so it's my fault. They starts picking up the fallen books. Aristia picks a book and said, we had this kind of book. Looking at the book that Aristia was holding, Alandis said, oh, I know this one. It's about a lady and her knight's oath, right? From old fairy tales. A knight's oath to a lady. The knight swears his loyalty to his lord, and never-ending love to his lady. But it's a story only told in old history now. He asked Aristia, what do you think about this? Aristia said, well, it all sounds like a dream. She thinks in her mind, an oath of never-ending love. It has nothing to do with me. It's a story in a fairy tale. While Aristia was thinking, Alandis looks at her smiling and said, Aristia. Alandis leans towards Aristia and puts his hand on the wall facing Aristia. Alandis said, Aristia. While surprised by her reaction, she said, Alandis. He said, Aristia, you're quite selfish, aren't you? She asked, what? Alandis explained, so, you also want a knight who only looks up to you? I didn't expect that. She replied, that's not true. He told her, it's not a bad thing, just, don't you think an oath of eternal love is too difficult? And what if they can't be together even if they love each other? He explained, for example, what if a knight falls in love with the same person his lord loves? Will the knight break the oath if his lord commands him to give up? Or will he break the loyalty to his lord and choose love? What if the other person already has a loved one? Is it really possible to keep an oath beautiful forever? He asked, what do you think you'd do if you were the lady? Will you be able to choose one? She answered, I don't know. Something like that. She thinks in her mind, all of that has nothing to do with me now. It's an old fairy tale that can't always be beautiful. Alandis then said, let's not talk about this. Aristia thinks in her mind, sometimes, Alandis stabs where it hurts the most without any warning. While they were talking, Alandis notices chess board lying around. He asked Aristia, want to play chess? She thinks in her mind, I really should keep some distance from him. They started playing chess. While playing, Aristia takes a sigh. Alandis looking at her asked, you're upset because of what I just told you, aren't you? She thinks in her mind, he's quick to notice. She replied, I just have a lot to think about. She thinks in her mind, wait. This makes it seem like I really wanted a knight. She blushed while feeling embarrassed. She then spoke, please don't misunderstand, Alandis. I just thought that it was a pitiful fairy tale. After saying that she thinks, that sounded even more like an excuse. Alandis grins after hearing that. He said, alright. I've decided. Well, if you wish to be a lady, I can't help but do this. Aristia asked, do what? The curtains flutter because of air and he said, I won't be able to become a real knight, but I can at least do this much for my precious friend. After saying that Alandis kneels in front of Aristia. While shocked and confused Aristia asked, Alandis, what are you? Alandis said while taking knight oath, I, Alandis de Verita, will promise to Aristia La Monique to forever serve you as my lady. He asked, Dear Aristia, will you accept my oath? Surprised by his words, Aristia thinks in her mind, why is he suddenly? Why is he doing this? What does he want from me? Looking at his extended hand, Aristia thinks, I shouldn't accept it. I have to refuse. I have to refuse. Her mind stops working, feeling pressured. She thinks, I don't know what to do if you look at me with those expectant eyes. I was just thinking that I needed to put some distance between us. After few moments she takes a sigh and said, I do. Alandis said while smiling, I am honored, Aristia. He said, wow. Now you're really my lady. She thinks in her mind while smiling, right, let's just leave him like that for now. Even if this will fade with time, I hope to remember this pure feeling that's long been gone in myself, through him a bit longer. While holding her hand, Alandis said, I met you for the first time last spring. And now I finally feel like we've gotten closer. Though you haven't really grown much from that time. Aristia said, well, the same goes for you too. Alandis then said, now that we're a knight and lady, we have to work hard. So we have 4 years until my coming of age, and 5 years for you. We still have a lot to go. Boys coming of age, 18. Girls coming of age, 16. Aristia remembered, coming of age. Alandis said, I hope you grow up soon, my lady. 1 year ago Aristia's father hands her the sword and said, Tia, take this. Receiving the sword, Aristia thinks, a sword. Her father told her, I had it prepared since you'll need one as you learn how to wield a sword. Aristia said, thank you, Papa. The knight present there gets shocked from this. Aristia left after receiving the sword and her father wondered, does she not like it? A knight called, Commander. Her father asked, what is it? All the knights looks at her father with worry, while confused her father said, if you have something to say, speak up. All of them were looking at him worried. You gave her a sword. For her birthday. Duke Arkant laughed loudly after saying that. While laughing he said, to your daughter, who is only 10 years old. Even if my children loved fighting, they would still ask for something other than a sword for their birthday. Feeling ashamed her father said, I didn't know as such, so I couldn't help it. She's been training a lot, so I thought she would like a sword. Duke Arkant said, because you've rarely spoken to your daughter for such a long time. You can't blame anyone, it's all your fault. He said, well, don't be too upset. You can start to know her more now. Who knows, perhaps. She might like it a bit, secretly. Not just a little bit, but a lot. On her next birthday her fater gifts her a doll and said, Tia, congratulations on your 11th birthday. While confused she asked, what? Her father asked, isn't tomorrow your birthday? It's your present. Aristia thinks in her mind, birthday. Well, it is my birthday. But, she reminisces the past and thinks, I've lived to be 17 years old. And now I have to play with a doll. No, even in my past life, I've never really played with a doll. Looking at the doll she thinks, I don't know how to respond. She wondered, what should I do with this? Her father said, looks like you don't like it. The knights said that girls your age would like dolls. I guess I got it wrong again. Hearing his response Aristia quickly said, no, Papa. I really like it, she happily said, this is amazing. I'm so happy, thank you, Papa. Her father takes a sigh of relief and pats her and he said, I see. That's great. He asked, Tia, would you like to go outside with me? She replied, yes. They went to the royal palace. While walking inside the royal palace all the people there were staring at them. Aristia thinks in her mind, I can feel people staring at me from behind. She thinks while walking, so he had to go to the palace. Papa, you took me to work, not for a walk. She was holding the doll her father gifted her. She suddenly realized, oh no. I should have left this at home. Everyone must be staring at me because I'm holding something too childish. Her father looks at her and then he smiles. She also smiles and thinks, I guess it doesn't matter. Oh well. Papa looks so happy. Someone came shouting, Commander. He said, there you are. We're in need of your presence. Assistant of the second squad, Kajin de Ras, Aristia looks at him and remembers, the eldest son from House Ras. Her father asked, what's wrong? Kajin said, there was an accident during training, but it's gotten complicated. I've done what I can for now, but there is only so much I can do with my title. Her father said, I see. I'll be right there. He then said to Aristia, Tia, go ahead and wait inside. Do you know the way to my office? Aristia replied, yes, take care. Walking with her father, Kajin said to him, also. There was an announcement about an inspection today. All right, Aristia thinks in her mind while walking inside the palace, he's busy as soon as he arrives here. Yet he still prepared a present for me. She remembered, wait, he gave me a small sword around this time last year too. Was that also my birthday present? In the Empire, it's normal to not celebrate birthdays before becoming an adult. Yet he's ignored that custom twice now. Papa. For me. She hugs the doll and thinks in her mind, I'll treat it more carefully. Papa prepared it just for me. I'll keep it with me at all times. While walking from the corner she thinks, Lena would know what I could do with this. I'll ask her as soon as I get back. She suddenly bumped into someone at the corner and fell down. While trying to stand up she said, I'm sorry. It was the prince in whom she bumped. Prince Ruvalis. Aristia thinks in her mind, Prince Ruvalis. Him again, of all people. Heron said, you are before the royal prince. Pay your respects. Aristia quickly stands up and said, forgive me. She greets the prince, greetings, future son of the. While she was saying her doll slipped from her hand. Kya. Oh no, She thinks in her mind, what did I just do? She apologized and said, please forgive me. I've shown such disgrace. While she was bowing her head she thinks in her mind, he won't forgive me. He must be mad, because he's always been mad at me. The prince doesn't say anything and keep being silent. Aristia looks at him and thinks, he's not mad. Then the prince asked, where is Marquis Karen? He wasn't inside. Aristia replied, there was an accident during training, so he went to check. The prince said, then, I'll wait for him since I'm already here. Both of them sits inside a room, and they doesn't speak to each other. Aristia wondered, why did this happen? I run into him whenever I visit the palace. This prolonged silence this is too much to handle. She prayed in her mind, Papa, please hurry. The prince suddenly remembered a child crying in his mind. Hick, your highness. The prince said, you. Aristia thinks in her mind, is he going to get mad now? The prince asked, still like those kinds of dolls, I see. Aristia asked, pardon. Aristia wonders, what did he just say? Still. HMPH. Aristia asked the prince, what do you mean? They heard the sound of door opening. Her father and Duke Ruth came inside the room. Her father said, Your Highness. You're here. Duke Ruth said, Greetings, Your Highness. The prince said, looks like you two are quite busy. He said, I'm here to oversee things under the Emperor's commands. Duke Ruth said, then, please come this way. What would you like to inspect first? The prince said, I'll start with the financial papers. After the prince left, Duke Ruth said, this is quite a rare sight. He said, a doll. I didn't think the young lady enjoyed those. He told her, you were always quite mature, but now you look like your age. Aristia thinks in her mind, that's because I've lived for 19 years now. While remembering in his mind, Duke Ruth said, was it last spring when you suggested the luxury tax? You were only 10 years old, yet you came up with something like that. Quite amazing, really. Thanks to you, we were able to prepare for the coming drought in advance. Aristia said, that's good news. I'm sure other people or the prince would have noticed even without me. Praising her, Duke Ruth said, you're humble as well. Aristia said, please, I am merely. She looks towards her father and all of them were staring at her. She thinks in her mind, why is he looking at me? Duke Ruth said, she's so brilliant at such a young age. Don't you agree she is a blessing for this empire, Your Highness? The prince smiles and said, quite so. He praised her saying, I am happy to have such a brilliant fiancé. Duke Ruth said, of course, haha. Looking at his expressions, Aristia remembers, that smile. That's his expression when he doesn't like something. She wonders, did they not notice? There's even a chill in the air from his coldness. Her father looks towards Aristia, who is worried, and asked, Tia, what's wrong? He quickly reached to her and said, you look so pale. Aristia replied, I'm all right. Her father then said to the prince, Your Highness, please, I ask that you allow us to leave. I'm all right. My daughter seems to be feeling quite sick these days. The prince allowed and said, as you wish. Her father then said, now, let's go, Tia. He picks Aristia and carry her with him. Aristia looks towards the prince as her father was carrying her and leaving. She wonders, why do you always look at me with such eyes? With such hatred and resentment? What did I ever do to you? You were the one who tormented and neglected me. I should be the one to resent you. So why are you the one showing such an expression? After some time in winter, Aristia is practicing in the training ground. Hup, hup, wham, smack, ha, wham. While practicing she thinks in her mind, faster. I must get stronger. I must become stronger in order to escape the royal palace. Before Jiun appears in this world, Alandis was standing worried looking at him training. While practicing she suddenly slipped and fell on the ground. Kya. Alandis asked, are you alright? Aristia replied, why yes. This is nothing. Alandis said, Aristia, why are you so anxious? You look like someone who's being chased. That's. She said to herself. Of course, I would look like that. Because I'm training like a mad person, afraid of getting caught. Alandis said, I see. Toy can't tell me. While Alandis removes dust from her clothes he said, but, Aristia, it's no secret that you have worked hard. You're a diligent person. I'm sure you'll achieve what you aim for. He said while smiling, if you wish, you can rely on me anytime. Aristia looks towards him and said, Alandis. She thinks in her mind, you're so kind. She then leans on Alandis' shoulder. She remembered her past and tells in her mind, in the past, nobody was kind to me. And I also thought only of myself. If I had opened my heart more back then, would my life have been a bit different? Then, New Year's came around. An opera to celebrate Emperor Merkin's 25th year was performed. The emperor said, haha, it's been a while since I've watched a play like this. The emperor asked, and how have you been these days? Aristia replied, I've been well, thanks to your grace. The emperor said, good. Please enjoy the opera. He said, the Marquis has to watch this opera by himself. Though, I'm the one who called you here to this seat. Aristia looks at her father and said to herself, Father. The emperor then said, now that I think about it, your family is quite small. It's only you and your father, the Marquis. Aristia replied, yes. The emperor said, who knew she would pass away at such a young age? Such a pity. Aristia looks towards the prince and wonders, is he talking about my mother? The prince looks towards Aristia and then turns his face. Aristia gets confused by his action. Then the emperor said, it would have been such a blessing if the Marchioness had lived longer. He said, it feels like it was only yesterday that I last saw her. It's such a shame for everyone, really. Aristia said, Your Majesty. She thinks in her mind, how should I answer at times like these? I don't remember anything about my mother. Everyone and even father have avoided talking about my mother. And I don't remember her, so I don't even feel any longing. Remembering her past she thinks, now that I think about it, I talked about my mother with other people like this before I came back in time. What did I say back then? How did I answer back then? While she was thinking the emperor said, by the way, Lady Aristia, I heard that you entered the palace looking quite lovely last time. Aristia asked, pardon? He told her, you were holding a doll almost as big as you. Rumors have been circulating, starting from the second squadron. While feeling embarrassed Aristia asked, the second squadron? She thinks in her mind, how did the emperor hear about such a thing? Then the emperor said, I know everything that happens in this palace, haha. He added, what a pity. I would have been delighted to see such a sight. Asterisk. He looks towards the prince and said, I heard you met the prince, though. Aristia thinks in her mind, why now? The emperor asked, well, prince. Was she as lovely as they said, in your eyes as well? The prince replied with a smile, yes. She was, father. The emperor laughs and said, haha, is that so? Aristia gets surprised and shocked at the same time. She looks towards the prince and thinks in her mind, what does he mean by that? What did he mean by saying that? She remembers the prince from her past and thinks, ah, right. I remember that. Occasionally, I saw his expression like that before Jiun appeared. He was still indifferent to me, yet although he seemed hostile at times, back then, he didn't despise me as much. Asterisk. She wondered, so, when did things start to go wrong? What about me did he hate so much? On the verge of crying she thinks, what for? Then she suddenly heard the voice then, finally. The future son to succeed the holy blood has been born. She came back to her senses and thinks, ah yes, we are watching an opera. And to bless the future son, God has sent a holy partner to accompany him. She looks at the Emperor's partner and thinks, what? That's me. To think that I would be in the play. Did His Majesty invite me here knowing this? Asterisk. The performer said, and so the glory of the empire continues and prospers in bountifulness. May the child of prophecy be blessed with prosperity. Suddenly the chandelier shakes and fell down on the venue. The chandelier suddenly fell. The prince asked the emperor, Father, are you hurt anywhere? He replied, I'm fine. He asked, are you all right, my son and Lady Aristia? Aristia thinks in her mind, oh no. Just about to link hands. Yes, this is. It's like a sign, saying the two should never be together. Is this an omen that the same past will be waiting for me again in the future? Or is this God ridiculing me for my futile attempt to stray from my fate? They people present their start talking to each other. Oh my. Did you just see that? The chandelier, just when they were about to. What blasphemy. Perhaps this is an omen about an ominous marriage. The emperor and the prince also heard them talking. The presenter came on stage and said, Your Majesty, Your Highness, and dear honored guests, even a fabulous chandelier can only shy away and lower its face in the presence of the holy sun and moon. So, to the royal majesty, and the future sun and moon, may there be everlasting prosperity. The people present their starts clapping and applause. Looking towards the Emperor, Aristia thinks in her mind, will they think the same? Or do they feel it is ominous, just as I do? No. What does it matter? As long as he hates me as he did in the past, the same thing will happen. Then, there is only one future for me. I must avoid the fate that is tied with him at all costs. After that, while sleeping, Aristia heard a voice, who? This voice, Papa. She heard them talking, Your Majesty. Your Highness, you must wake up. I have an urgent matter to attend to at the borders. What? Why so suddenly? Her father said to her while she was sleeping, Please wait for me. I will come back soon to take you home. Aristia wonders, Papa, home? What do you mean, home? This is our home, Papa. What are you talking about? Her father said, So, you must stay strong and stay well until then. Aristia thinks, Where are you going? Without me. She heard her father saying, Do you understand? Your Highness, the Queen. She flinched and said, Father. She rises up from her bed as an adult and called, Father. Wait, no, don't go, Father. Please, don't go without me, Father. She opens her eyes and her hand was extended towards the ceiling, Father. She rises up from her bed and thinks, a dream. Lena came and opens the door. She said, My lady, are you awake? The Lord is. She stopped in the middle after looking at Aristia. She asked, Oh dear, Lady Aristia. What's wrong? You're so pale. Are you feeling ill? Aristia asked, Lena. What about my father? Lena replied, The Lord is speaking with Duke Arkant right now. Aristia wonders, Duke Arkant? What for, at this early hour? I have a bad feeling about this. She went to where her father and Duke Arkant was. Looking towards Aristia, the Duke said, Oh, the young lady is here just in time. Aristia asked, did something happen? Her father suddenly stands up from his place and said Tia. He stopped and doesn't say further. Aristia thinks in her mind, Papa. What's wrong? What in the world happened? Her father said, Tia, looks like Papa has to go on an expedition to another land. She thinks in her mind, an expedition. Papa, the Knight Commander, going on an expedition. But why so suddenly? The Duke said, It's really troublesome. Do you remember the bad harvest you mentioned before? While taking a sigh he told, Looks like it's going to begin this year. And on a bigger scale, at that. Aristia asked, A bad harvest? But, I heard the Empire was preparing for that in advance. The Duke replied, Of course. That is the case, but there are always those who refuse to listen. Kajin added, Certain lords have disobeyed their orders and have resorted to plundering. As such, the people of those lands are resisting and are starting to riot. A royal order has been issued to send knights to subdue the riots and oversee the relief work. Aristia thinks in her mind, a riot. So it happened in the end. Her father said, Due to the situation, I will proceed together with the whole second squad. Aristia asked, All of them? Then. She thinks in her mind, That means I'll be here alone. The Duke said, I apologize for these circumstances, Lady Aristia. I do wish I could go myself, but the commander of the first squad can't leave the city. Instead, my son and some of the knights from the first squad will be joining the main unit. We should hurry with the preparations. When should we mobilize? Looking at them preparing to leave, Aristia thinks in her mind, Is this what my dream was alluding to? She thinks in her mind, I might not see Papa for months, or even years. And that's not all. It's just like that night when he said he would come back for me. While feeling worried, she thinks, what if he never comes back? No, that won't happen. She thinks, they say negative thoughts bring bad luck. The past and the present are different now. Papa will surely return safely. Her father said to the Duke, Arkant, I expect you will take good care of my daughter while I'm away. She's smart, but she's still young. I would be grateful if you occasionally visit to check on her. The Duke replied, that won't be a problem. Even Ruth will be going to oversee the relief operation, so the capital will be quite empty. That reflects the importance of this mission. Her father asked, then, who will be going as the assistant chancellor? The Duke told him, His Majesty is supposed to appoint someone, but I don't know who it will be. I assume it may be Ruth's eldest son. He will then be able to teach him the way. Her father then said, I wonder if that will be the case. Then the Duke said, at any rate, since my dear friends and son will be traveling so far away, how about I hold a farewell banquet? At the Verita mansion, that is. Her father replied, you must have gotten their permission beforehand, right? After some time while walking, Aristia thinks in her mind, I feel like I'm by myself already. Kajin said, Lady Aristia. While holding her hand he said, I heard you are learning how to wield a sword. She replied, oh, yes. I'm training to become more healthy as well. He said, you must be learning fast since the commander is guiding you. She told him, this is true, but I've still got a long way to go. Kajin said, the Marquis and I will be leaving, but my father and younger brother will be here to watch over you. Please, do not worry. Aristia thinks in her mind, a younger brother. Right, the younger son of Duke Arkant was a master of the sword. Perhaps I can learn from him. Aristia asked him, what kind of person is your younger brother? He replied, Karsane. Then he doesn't speak for a moment as he remembers something in his mind. Then he said, he's not a bad person. Once you get to know him. Aristia said, once I get to know him. She remembers in her mind that, I remember there were a lot of problems in House Ras due to their heir. Are they not on good terms? Perhaps I shouldn't have asked. Verita Mansion. The servant said, welcome, Marquis Karen and Lady Aristia. I will show you to the reception hall. The maid showed the way and said, Lady Aristia, this way, please. The young master is waiting for you. Aristia joyfully said, I'll go see Alandis. Walking behind the maid, Aristia thinks in her mind, I was starting to feel down, but I'm glad I can meet with Alandis. When everyone leaves, I'll be all alone in the mansion. And then, what will I need to do? Manage the mansion's daily affairs, complete my studies, and she heard a bang and clash sound while walking. The Ehad maid asked the other maid, we have guests. What is all this ruckus about? The maid said, She said I'm so sorry. As she left. After she left, Aristia looks towards from where the sound came and said, that was. The head maid said, it's nothing you need to concern yourself with. Aristia said, but. The maid said with a serious tone, you're here to see the young master, aren't you, Lady Aristia? Now, he's waiting in this room. Please enter. Aristia looks beside the door inside the room and wonders, what's going on? She called, Alandis, I'm here. She said, I heard a loud noise just now. She stopped as she saw Alandis looking serious. In a moment Alandis changed and with excitement he said, Aristia. Come here, my lady. Wow, welcome, I'm glad to see you. Aristia said, yes. Hello, Alandis. She wondered, was I mistaken just now? She asked, did something happen? I heard a really loud noise coming from here. Alandis said, oh, the maid accidentally spilled some tea. Don't worry about it, Aristia. It will be cleaned up soon. In the meantime, it's so nice to see you at my home like this. Aristia thinks in her mind, oh, it looks like it wasn't anything serious. While showing her the way, Alandis said, now, let's go. I'll show you the garden. The air is cooler out there by the lake. It will be more refreshing than staying inside. Aristia said, oh, right. While going away, Aristia looks towards the cups and tea, but everything was fine lying there. In the garden. While on the swing, Aristia gets shocked and asked, what? You're leaving too, Alandis? Alandis said, yes, it just happened. My father needs someone to assist him, but as everyone knows, my older brother is frail. That's why I'll be going instead. Aristia asked, how can that be? Alandis then told her, we'll have to travel without a base camp for a while, so I won't be able to write letters that often. The air starts moving. While feeling down, Aristia said, I see. While on the swing, she thinks in her mind, father, the knights, and even Alandis. I know I can't have everyone by my side at all times, but still, this is too sudden. While Aristia was busy in her thoughts, Alandis was standing hiding the bruise on his hand. He said, "It looks like she noticed. I should have held back." While a gust of wind suddenly blows from the front of her, she asked, "What did you say?" Alandis gets close to Aristia and she said Alandi. Alandis kissed Aristia in her forehead and she blushed. Holding her hands, Alandis said, "I'll be back, my lady. You may be lonely, but please bear with it for a while. You have to take care of yourself. And don't be too friendly with the other boys, or I'll get jealous." Aristia said, "Really? You always say the strangest things. Be careful, and come home safely." Alandis said, "I have a lot to prepare, so I need to return to the mansion first. I'll see you when I come back." While Alandis was leaving, Aristia watched him from behind and said to herself, "Alandis, be well. Please come back safely." The next day, her father said, "Keep safe. If anything happens, send a message to Duke Arkant for help." Aristia replied, "Yes, Papa." She gives her father a present and said, "Papa, here." Her father asked, "This is?" She told him, "It's just to wish you luck on a safe return. I made it in a hurry last night." She thinks in her mind, "I didn't have much time." Her father smiles and said, "Thank you. Then, here's my gift in return." Aristia said, "Your cufflinks. Papa, you shouldn't take these off." Her father said, "I have an extra pair, so it's fine. It's only right that I give something in return for such a precious gift." While she squeezes the cufflinks her father gave her, she said, "Papa." Looking at her father, she thinks in her mind, "I should say something. After this, I won't be able to see Papa until next spring. I have to say something." The other knights came rushing to her and said, "Lady Aristia, please, accept ours too. Here's mine. Mine too. Here's more. Do you have anything for us? Please wish us luck as well." While amazed by everyone, she thinks in her mind, "That's right. I forgot about everyone else. We weren't close before, but now I've trained with them, side by side, every day. Yet, I only made a gift for Papa." Her father then said to the knights, "We're leaving." The knights then said to her, "Lady Aristia, make sure to eat well, and be wary of any suspicious men." She said, "I will. Please return safely, everyone." After bidding farewell to the expedition, I returned to the mansion, where the days passed by peacefully. It's a bit lonely, but it's not as bad as I had thought. Except for my studies, that is. Taking a sigh, Aristia said, "I don't know what to do. I've suddenly hit a wall." Lena said, "You must be tired from studying while also managing the estate." She suggested, "Why don't we go outside for a breather?" Lena's in a ponytail. Aristia asked, "To where?" Lena said, "To town. I was just about to leave to run some errands." Aristia said while thinking, "Town. Perhaps I should go." Lena said, "There's a new boutique that opened up. We can go order a new dress for you, and have some delicious cake while we're out." They went to the town. Standing inside a shop, Lena said with a disappointed look, "We're finally outside, and here you are, looking at metal instead of dresses." Aristia said, "I'm just going to take a quick look around, since I already have a sword, and see what's here." Lena said while whining, "I can't believe that my delicate lady would grow up to shop for such hideous blades." Aristia then said, "Well, after this, let's go to that cake shop you like." Lena excitedly said, "Really? You're too kind, my lady. I'll go tell the coachman." After Lena left the shop, a boy with red hair came inside the shop. Aristia thinks in her mind, "Gee, Lena really doesn't like to wait." The boy asked the shopkeeper, "Master, how's my order coming along?" The shopkeeper replied, "Welcome, young sir. Already finished it and had it wrapped. It's all ready for you." The bot said, "I can always count on you, master." The shopkeeper said, "It was going to be delivered tomorrow, but you're here now." The bot said, "How could you expect me to wait until then? I can't contain my excitement. Bring it now." Hearing them talking, Aristia thinks in her mind, "Sounds just like Lena. He's so loud, and he looks like he'd be hasty." She wondered what kind of family would raise a son like that. Looking at a sword, Aristia thinks in her mind, "A silver guard. It looks just like Papa's sword." She extends her hand to reach the sword. Another hand came to the sword. Aristia looks towards the boy surprised. The boy asked, "What are you looking at?" The boy asked, "Do you like swords too?" Aristia replied, "Ah, yes." She thinks in her mind, "How can he be this blunt during a first meeting?" The boy looks at Aristia from head to toe and asked, How long has it been?" While confused, Aristia asked, What? The boy said, you're training. How long has it been since you started training? A year, 2 years. She replied, about a year and a half. Aristia thinks in her mind, how did he know? Looking at other swords the boy said, really? Then, giving Aristia a sword the boy said, this should be good. She said, with your figure, the one before would have been too heavy for you to wield. Aristia grabs the sword and thinks in her mind, oh, it's light. It's similar to what Papa gave me. She said, thank you. She thinks, though I don't need it. The boy then said, you're quite the odd one. Girls don't usually study this stuff, right? They normally don't come anywhere near it. Swords, spears, anything. Since their hands will start to look like that after a while. Aristia looks at her hand and thinks, oh, the calluses. That's how he knew. She said, that's true. But, my father is a knight. After hearing that the boy excitedly said, really? So is my family. The boy told her, my older brother and father are both knights. And I'll become one as well. While showing off the boy said, I will be accepted into the best knighthood in the city. To their first squad. Well, at my level, I'm sure I'll become the youngest knight ever. Aristia thinks in her mind, the youngest knight. Looking at the boy she observed, hair as red as flame and blue eyes as clear as glass. She wondered, could he be? She said, Karsane, de Ras. While smiling the boy said, what, you've heard of me? Gee, I guess it's hard being a genius since everyone recognizes you. Aristia thinks in her mind, so it's him. The youngest son of the Ras family, and the genius swordsman of the empire. She thinks he's so arrogant. He really has no manners. I think I understand what Circassian meant. Then Karsane said, alright. If you ever get stuck during training, come find me. This genius will help you out. Aristia asked, is that true, Sir Karsane? He arrogantly said, of course. I'm probably better than any master. If I help you one-on-one, you'll get better in no time. So, you, She suddenly said, right. I don't even know your name. Aristia said, oh, my name is. While Aristia was talking a servant came and bangs open the shop's door. He shouted, young master, I knew you would be here. I knew it. How many times do I have to beg you not to suddenly disappear? Karsane shouted, it's not like that. I just came here for a second to get my sword. The servant said, then let's get back quickly. You're done here, aren't you? Aristia thinks in her mind, even his servant is loud. Karsane said, alright, I'm coming. While he was going the shopkeeper said, oh, young master, you should take this with you. After that while leaving Karsane aid to Aristia smiling, hey, you. Make sure to visit me, alright. Until then, bye. They left with a bang sound. Aristia said to herself, he was like a storm. After some time, while training Aristia said to herself, I knew it. I'm stuck. She think, I'm training in this wide, open space. All by myself, without anyone to guide me. She said, the emptiness left behind by those who leave, feels deep. She suddenly remembered Karsane's words, make sure to visit me. She thinks, guess I'll go see him. Residence of Duke Arkant. Duchess Ernia said, I've heard about you, Lady Aristia. She said, I heard the Marquis hoped we would help you with your training. Aristia replied, yes, that's right. Duchess said, well then, we won't need to talk for long, I see. I've sent someone for my little boy. He should be here soon. Aristia thanked her saying, thank you, Duchess Ernia. Looking at her Aristia thinks in her mind, she's still the same, I see. She's always been cold toward me, for some reason. I could tell right away that she didn't like me. Karsane came and said, why do you keep calling for me? Can you please just forgive me? Scratching his head he said, I've been quiet the whole day. His mother said, take a seat. We have a guest. Karsane noticed Aristia and said, oh, it's you. He said, ooh, you're the one from before. Good, I knew you would come. While patting her he said, look at that. You're stuck, right, you need this genius, don't you? His mother from behind said, Karsane. She said, looks like you two have already met. Well then, formally introduce yourselves. Lady Aristia. Karsane asked, what? Aristia introduced her in a noble manner, my name is Aristia Monique. I've come today to request your help. It's an honor to meet you. Karsane stands there frozen. Aristia asked, sir. Karsane asked, Monique. Right, you have silver hair. Among the nobles, only those of House Monique have silver hair. He asked with a serious expression, so, that means, You're the future Empress, right? Verita residence, the day before the expedition. While playing chess, Duke Arkant smirkingly said, "Their checkmate." Huh. He said, "We even placed a wager. Why are you so distracted? This isn't like you." He then asked, "Are you worried about your daughter?" Taking a sigh, he said, "Well, there's that." The Duke asked, "Is there something else? Is it because of Ruth's younger son? He's smart, and it looks like he's also very astute. I heard he proposed to your daughter as soon as he found out the engagement might be cancelled." While Marquis glares, the Duke said, "Aren't you lucky, Karen? You don't need to worry about your daughter's husband." He then said, trying to calm down the Marquis, "I was joking. It was a joke. You're being really scary right now." He said, "If Ruth knew you hated it this much, he'd be sad." Marquis said, "If he had the heart to be sad about this, I wouldn't be so worried." Duke Arkant towards the Duke Ruth. Looking at Duke Ruth, he said, "I suppose that's true." He looks towards the Marquis and Marquis takes a sigh. The Duke then said, "Then, how about this? What if my younger son watched over her?" Marquis said, "Your younger? You mean, that child?" The Duke said, Yes, I'm talking about that one." "Well, he's naive and a bit quick to anger." While smiling, the Duke said, "But he's just like me." Meaning, he's nice and sociable. To the present. Karsane angrily said, "What the? You think I'm gonna help a little runt like you?" He shouted to his mother, "I don't want to, mother. Why do I have to teach her?" His mother said, "Sign. Watch your tone. You're being rude. In front of our guest." She said, "Looks like you need to learn your manners again." He again protested, "But, mother, she's..." His mother interrupts him and said, "Sign. Do you wish to disobey your father?" Tisk. Aristia wondered, why is he angry? Is he uncomfortable because I suddenly came to visit? But, he was happy to see me just a few seconds ago. What made him change his mind? Karsane glares at Aristia and she thinks what? She again wondered, what is with this open hostility? His mother said, "Sign." He then said, "Ah, fine." He said to Aristia, "Then, shall we go?" Lady Aristia. Aristia asked, "Pardon, where to?" He said, "Aren't you here to train with me? Then, isn't it obvious that I need to know how good you are first?" He heard her mother saying, "Karsane." He panicked kingly said, "I'm being nice." He calmly asked, "You're coming, right?" Aristia replied, "Ah, yes." Gosh. Aristia thinks in her mind, perhaps I shouldn't have come. In the training ground, Karsane said to Aristia, "Took you long enough to get changed. I don't have all day, you know." Aristia said, "I'm sorry for the delay, sir." He then asked, "So, your father told you to train with me?" She replied, "Ah, yes." He said, "Ha, what a joke." Shaking his head, he told, "You think learning how to wield a sword is easy? Why don't you just swing it around for a couple of minutes for fun?" Feeling annoyed by him, Aristia said, "But, aren't you the one who said to come visit if I need help?" He said, "That was before I knew you were the daughter of House Monique. Now that I know, don't expect me to be nice to you." Aristia asked, "What do you mean?" He replied, "I meant exactly as I said." Holding the wooden sword, Aristia wondered, what is this? He won't even tell me the reason. She said, "Sir, I'm not trying to learn how to use the sword as a simple pastime." He said, "HMPH. It's clear why a girl from a noble house would want to learn. I can't stand those who try to show off by doing something different." Aristia thinks in her mind, why did his attitude change? He should have known I was from a noble family from the beginning. He was the one who approached me so easily before. Yet, this is his true personality. She told him, "I'm not training for that kind of reason." Karsane said, "Enough excuses. If that's the truth, then you need to prove to me how serious you are." Aristia replied, "Fair enough." She asked, "How should I prove it?" He said, "Let's see how good you are at the basics." Gritting her teeth, Aristia said, "All right." After that, he asked Aristia to swing the sword continuously. Ha. He watched Aristia while she swings her sword. He then said, "Enough." While taking quick breaths, Aristia asked, "How was I?" Karsane replied with a clear look, "I think you're pathetic." Aristia furiously thinks in her mind, "Seriously, this boy?" He remarked, "Your basic skills are passable, but the rest? You're a total mess, and you want to call yourself a swordsman? Are you out of your mind?" Feeling enraged by his comment, he thinks in her mind, "I have to endure. I'm the one who's asking for help here." She then said, "It's as you just saw. Since there's nobody to guide me, I've been training by myself. But I haven't made any progress." He said with obvious reaction, Well, that's obvious. You won't get anywhere with that floppy posture of yours. Feeling annoyed, Aristia thinks in her mind, floppy. Aristia asked him, then, what should I do? He shouted, why should I care? Why do I even have to help you with your training? He told her, figure it out yourself. And don't bother me. Aristia said, but, you should also understand how helpless one feels when they've reached a wall and nothing seems to work. He arrogantly replied, nope. Never felt that way. I'm that good. I mean, I've always been above the rest, you know. Aristia thinks in her mind, what's his problem? He's so arrogant. And he made me have such high hopes. Aristia grits her teeth and then suddenly turns to the opposite side. Karsane said, as expected. If you're giving up this early, that means you were never serious about your training in the first place. Aristia said, I do not wish to converse with someone who can't keep their promise. He replied, right, just quit already. He told her, you lack both the strength and stamina to learn anyway. Why don't you do something about that feeble body of yours before holding a sword? After that, Aristia starts walking and Karsane thinks to himself, so, she's really leaving. While leaving, Aristia said to herself, right. I see, strength and stamina. That has to come first. Just you wait. I'm not giving up like this. Back to the Monique household. Aristia called, Alan, Lena. The servant said, welcome back, Lady Aristia. She told them, starting today, have all my meals follow a strictly nutritional diet. I'm going to train even harder from now on. Alan asked, even harder? She then said to Lena, and Lena, can you make sandbags that would fit around my legs and arms? I need them for strength training. Both of them get shocked and asked, strength training? Lena replied, yes, I'll get them ready right away, my lady. As Aristia was leaving, they wondered, what's going on? Strength training and a nutritional diet. While talking to other servants, Lena said, it's obvious. Something must have happened at the Ras residence. Our lady is not someone who starts fights with others. The other maid said, oh, right. I heard that Sir Karsane is quite rude. He wouldn't get along with our young master who is always so polite. That must be why she's angry. Alan said, but, she's always been delicate. I'm not sure about this sudden increase in training. I wonder if she'll be alright. Meanwhile, Aristia thinks in her mind, I know what my weaknesses are, so I'll just work harder from now on. Remembering Karsane in her mind, she thinks, you'll see. I'll make you regret those words. The next day, she tells, I set my sights on strength training. I exercised to increase my stamina, then continued with basic sword training. I ran and ran, until my heart felt like it would burst. While training, Lena asked, Lady Aristia, are you alright? She tells, my life became a mix of training until my arms went numb, and then collapsing and falling asleep without eating dinner. I already knew this method wouldn't fix my problems. But, I couldn't stop, because I was running out of time. At Verita Manor, Karsane was sitting inside the garden thinking and wondering. He then heard a servant saying, welcome. We've been waiting for you. He quickly runs to the carriage that arrived. The servant said, young master. Karsane asked, who was that? The servant asked, pardon. He asked, who just arrived? The servant replied, that was the designer for the lady's new dress. The servant then asked, are you waiting for someone? No. Feeling disappointed and leaving, he said, it's nothing. He thinks in his mind, it's been a few days now, but I haven't heard from her. Was I too harsh? I was surprised since she was from House Monique. But, I was the one who offered to help her first. No, why do I have to worry about her? I mean, she's married to that high and mighty prince. She's not his wife just yet. Since they're only engaged, she's got nothing to do with me anyway. He suddenly remembered Aristia in his mind asking, you'll really help me? He thinks, I wonder if she's still training with that weak body. Geez, whatever. Meanwhile, at the Monique household, Aristia was training continuously. Lena, looking worried, said, Lady Aristia, please stop. You've been training since this morning. You'll get sick if you continue. Aristia said, just a little more. She thinks in her mind, this is the only way. This is the only way I can avoid getting involved with the royal family. But if this doesn't work, she then suddenly heard a voice saying, are you out of your mind? Karsane said with loud voice, stop that right now. While surprised, Aristia asked, Sir Karsane? He said, I just stopped by to check, but is this what you call training? Aristia asked, aren't you the one who said I need to improve my strength? He shouted, I never said you should do it like this. He grabs her training sword and said, Do you want to destroy your body to the point that you'll never be able to hold a sword again? Let go. Aristia asked, why do you care? While shocked by her question he asked, what? Aristia said with a serious face, I thought you didn't want to involve yourself in my business. In any case, please don't interfere and just leave. Karsane asked, hey, are you trying to put on a show because I said that? She said, if you're not going to help, then don't get involved. Walking by him she said, if you'll excuse me, I'm busy. Karsane abruptly said hey, now hold on. Suddenly Aristia felt dizzy and she passes out. Karsane while shocked said, hey, Kya. Lena said, Lady Aristia. Karsane holding her asked, wait, what's wrong? Darn, she's burning up. Hey, wake up, hey. Karsane picks her up and said to Lena, I'll carry her inside. Call the doctor, hurry. After some time in bed Aristia opens her eyes. She heard Lena saying, Tia. While crying Lena said, Lady Aristia. Are you awake? Aristia opens her eyes and said, Lena. Lena asked, would you like some water? I'll help you sit up. Aristia thinks in her mind, in the end, I collapsed. Just like I did in the past. After becoming 10 again, I worked hard to get healthier. But I haven't changed at all. She then falls on her bed again and closed her eyes. She thinks in her mind, what should I do? What should I do if this doesn't work? There's not much time left. After few moments, feeling awkward Karsane asked, hey, how are you feeling? Aristia replied, I'm feeling better. Thank you, Sir Karsane. She said, you carried me inside when I collapsed, correct? He said yes. Well. Feeling blushed he said, it's not a big deal. Aristia smiles and thinks in her mind, even though he was so mean before. Karsane then said, hey, I'll give you my honest opinion. You need to stop this type of training. At this rate, you won't even be able to hold a spoon, let alone a sword. Using sandbags when you're so young will only wear down your joints. Looking disappointed she thinks in her mind, I know that. That must be the reason why my father didn't train me separately. Because of this weak body. And that's why Alandis is far better than me now, even though we started together. Karsane said, you know, if you're that weak, why are you trying to learn sword fighting? There are other things you can do without overexerting yourself. Like gardening, or painting. She asked, well, I want to know why you rejected me last time. He answered, because you're the prince's fiancé, right? The future empress. Aristia said, so. She thinks in her mind, but I won't be. Karsane said, I thought you would quit training after getting married. He said, when you become the empress, you won't need to use a sword. The royal guards will always protect you. I don't want to deal with someone who will learn only as a hobby. I've seen plenty of people begin out of curiosity, only to quit right after. She thinks in her mind, I see. He doesn't want to see others take lightly what he has dedicated his life to. But, he continued, anyway, you get it now, right? That's how it is. You should stop. Aristia interrupts him and said, I won't give up. Karsane said, right, don't give up, huh? Surprised by her reply he said, have you not been listening? You'll ruin your joints. If this is a hobby, you can bring in a tutor too. She said no. I won't quit. No, I can't quit. She told him, no matter how difficult, even if I'm at a disadvantage because of my body, I will continue to hold a sword even if I die like this. No matter what. Looking at her Karsane thinks in his mind, why are you trying so hard? She said, I will become a knight. Meanwhile at the royal palace, Heron said while closing the door, Your Highness, I brought more papers for today. The lords on the outskirts are complaining non-stop. The prince was looking outside the window. Heron asked, Your Highness, what is it? The prince said, look there, Heron. Heron looks outside through the window. He said, those clothes, they're from the Lisa kingdom. Looks like an envoy has arrived. Then the prince said, an envoy at such a busy time. Heron said, well, the whole continent is in trouble because of the drought. The climate in the Lisa kingdom is cold and dry. And since it's in the north, they must have been hit hard. They're probably here to ask for more support and supplies. The prince said, I hope that's the case. Looking at them he thinks in his mind, but they're bringing in more than necessary for something like that. What is their goal? It started raining outside. While it's raining Aristia said, I will become a knight. While surprised Karsane asked, what? A knight? He said, but you're the prince's fiancé. Thinking hard he said, I'm sorry, but I don't get it. He said, so you're going to become the empress, and be a knight as well? Huh, is that possible? Aristia said to him, I won't become the Empress. I will follow in the footsteps of my family. Aristia tells, I will continue my family name. Yes, that is the reason. That's the reason why I've been training while also taking lessons as the heir of the family. I won't repeat that cruel fate. I won't be directed by my past. Instead, I will create a new path for myself. I will become a knight and inherit our noble title. I will be Marquis Aristia Monique. Remembering the prince, she said, this is the only way for me to escape the fate that is bound to him. She said, but, I'm not getting any stronger. And I don't know how I can improve with just basic training. She shouted with frustration, I have no choice but to feel anxious. Karsane said, I see, oh. Scratching his head, Karsane said, you could have told me earlier. I thought you were just swinging a sword to show off. Regretting what she said, Aristia thinks in her mind, oh no. What have I done? I've never told this to anyone. Yet, I blurted out something so important to a person I'm not even close to. I let my guard down. She asked, are you satisfied? You should go now. Shocked, Karsane said, huh, wait, but. Aristia said, you have no right or reason to involve yourself in my business. I'm sorry for disturbing you these past few days, but that won't happen again. Karsane shouted, what? Why are you saying it like that? I came because I was worried about. Aristia interrupts him and said, one more thing. Just because one excels in a certain area doesn't mean their flaws can be ignored. If you care about the reputation of your family and your own, you better learn how to act like a noble. While shocked and feeling annoyed and angry, Karsane said, hey. Aristia said, now then. Farewell, sir. Hey. Leaving the mansion, Karsane said with anger, ah. How can she treat me like this? Fine. Do it your way, see if I come here again. He then stops and looks towards the mansion. In Aristia's room, Lena asked, my lady, will this be alright? She replied, I'm tired. Remembering Alandis, she thinks in her mind, Alandis told me that it's no secret I've worked hard. And I wanted to believe him. But I ended up working myself too much and collapsed. All I've done is make everyone worry about me. You're pathetic, Aristia. A few days later, Lena asked, how do you feel today, my lady? Would you like some soup? Aristia replied, I'm feeling much better. And, yes, I'll have some. While Aristia was having soup, Lena said, my lady. Aristia asked, yes. Holding the letter, Lena said, a letter arrived for you. And, it's from the royal palace. Aristia thinks, the royal seal. It's from the emperor. After reading the letter, she thinks, it simply says I should visit the palace for an audience with the emperor. She wonders, is that it? What's going on? The business would usually be written. What is so important that it couldn't be mentioned by letter? What could it be? She then said, Lena, I'll need to get ready to visit the palace. Lena freaked out and said, my lady. You're going there in that state? Aristia said, I can't ignore a royal order. Aristia thinks in her mind, it's probably useless to ask, right? To postpone the deadline of our promise. At the royal palace, the announcer said, Lady Aristia Monique, daughter of Marquis Karen, has arrived. While walking, the other people looks at her and talks to each other. That girl is the daughter of House Monique, the woman from the prophecy. They whispered, she's still too young. It'll be some time before she becomes the Empress. Then, Aristia gets confused by them. In front of the Emperor, Aristia said while bowing, greetings, Your Majesty, son of the Empire. It is I, Aristia Monique, here at your service. The Emperor said, welcome, Lady Aristia. He said, I was curious about something, so I requested your presence. It's nothing serious. I was wondering about your guard these days. Who are the knights who are staying at your home? After hearing that, she thinks in her mind, my guard. A guard at the mansion of a marquis. What is he talking about? She answered, there is none. The Emperor said, I knew it. That won't do. The Marquis is too stubborn at times, really. He should have left at least 1 or 2 nights. It's nonsense to have you stay at the residence without a guardian. Aristia thinks in her mind, so this was the reason. The Emperor said, a royal guard will be prepared for you, starting today. She thinks in her mind, what is he talking about? A royal guard. She said while surprised, Your Majesty. Please, that is unnecessary. It's too much for someone like me. The Emperor said, too much? You are the future Empress. She said while feeling panicked. However, the royal guard are knights who protect the royal family. I am just. She thinks in her mind, I'm trying to escape from the royal family. A royal guard would only become a shackle. The Emperor said, I know what you are worried about. He said, how about this, then? While showing the ring on his hand, the emperor said, I promise that I won't use this against your wishes in the future. He asked, do you still disagree? She replied, no, your majesty. I am honored by your grace. She thinks in her mind, why? Why is he going this far? I feel burdened. The emperor said, by the way, you look pale. Perhaps you're. Aristia starts feeling dizzy. I feel dizzy. She heard emperor saying, if I had known, then I will. Hurry. While feeling dizzy, she thinks, oh no. My fever must be getting worse. I can't collapse here. I must stay awake. She then suddenly heard, the royal prince has arrived. The prince came and asked, you called for me, father. A while ago. Heron said, your highness, shouldn't you take a short break at least? The prince said, there's a mountain of paperwork I need to get through. How can I rest? Worried Heron said, but you've been working too hard lately. I'm worried you're going to overdo it. The prince said, the whole continent is in trouble this year. The chancellor is away due to relief operations, and the borders are unsecured. The people are afraid. At a time like this, I can't stand idly by and leave all the work to the officers. Furthermore, my father trusted me with this task. I won't allow for any mistakes. Seeing the prince determined, Heron agreed. As you wish. The prince then went to the audience room with the emperor. The announcer said, the royal. The prince stops him by raising his hand. Then the prince tidied himself up before entering. He heard a laughing voice from the room. He thinks in his mind, someone's talking. He said, Lady Aristia, you look a bit pale. Are you not feeling well? I'm a little under the weather, your majesty. Please forgive me for visiting you in such a state. After hearing that, he concludes that it's Aristia, she's here. He heard the emperor saying, my apologies. If I had known you weren't well, I would have asked to see you at a later date. I will send a royal doctor to check on you. This is a royal order, so do not consider refusing. Aristia said, I am grateful for your concern. The emperor said, I hope to see you well, soon. Then he laughs. The prince said to the announcer, continue. He said, yes, your highness. He announced. The prince enters the room and both Aristia and the prince looks at each other. The prince said, you called for me, father. The emperor said, yes. Welcome, my son. I was planning for us to have tea with the young lady here, but she's not feeling well. Aristia said, please, do not worry about me. And the emperor said, no, I do not wish to burden a sick person, so. He added, that's right. My son, why don't you escort her? I'll have them prepare the tea upon your return. While getting shocked, Aristia quickly said, that's not necessary, your majesty. I'm quite fine. The prince replied, I understand, father. While feeling down, Aristia said, I shall take my leave then, your majesty. Then the emperor said, feel better soon, Lady Aristia. Walking down the stairs behind the prince, Aristia thinks in her mind, this is suffocating. I feel even worse. While feeling tired, she tries to hold herself firm, hold on just a bit more. I just have to get through this place. Stay strong. Don't show him anything. The prince takes a glance at her and then ignores her. After that, Aristia said, thank you for escorting me here, your highness. I think I can leave on my own now. Then the prince called, Sir Lank. He came and replied, yes, your highness. The prince said, bring a carriage as quickly as possible. We will be traveling to the Monique residence. Aristia gets surprised by his words and wonders, why is he? I thought he hated the sight of me. While riding the carriage with the prince, Aristia thinks in her mind, oh, right. The emperor didn't specify until where I was to be escorted. He must be taking me home just to be safe. The prince looks at Aristia and thinks in his mind, she looks like she could faint at any moment. It's amazing that she arrived for an audience, and still kept her decorum while in such a state. If she's 5 years younger than me, then she must be 12 this year. She's young, and yet so determined. He said to himself, you're loved by my father. If you asked, he would have gladly let you rest. He said with a low voice, how silly. You. And I as well. Aristia asked, pardon. The prince doesn't say anything. At the Monique residence, the prince said farewell, well then, take care. Aristia said, thank you, your highness. Take. After the carriage left, Aristia wondered, why do I feel so empty? Just a minute ago, I wanted so badly to escape. She suddenly remembered the prince's words, how silly. She thinks in her mind, perhaps he escorted me here because he was worried about me. She then quickly remembers and thinks, what am I thinking? Something like that could never happen. He hates me, seriously. How could I think of something like that? I wasn't as scared of him today as I usually am. But that's because I was feeling unwell. I didn't have the energy to feel cautious. That must be it. Meanwhile, riding the carriage back to the palace, the prince remembers Aristia in his mind and said, I hope you feel better soon, Lady Aristia. After some time, a knight said, starting today, we will be your personal guard. They introduced themselves. My name is Seymour, from the Royal Guard. And I'm June. It's a pleasure to meet you. Aristia said, ah, yes. Thank you. I'll be in your care. She thinks in her mind, he really sent a royal guard. 2, even. The royal guard said, from now on, we will be guarding you 24 hours a day. Aristia asked, all 24 hours? At morning, you must be especially cautious in the morning, as it's easy to put your guard down. At noon, someone may try to breach the garden. We will always be by your side. At night, it's especially dangerous when everyone is asleep. We will guard your door. Walking in the garden, Aristia thinks in her mind, this is a bit stifling. I've never had anyone following me around like this before. When I was an empress in the past, I never received this much protection. Yet now that I'm not even a royal, I'm being guarded. Fate is quite cruel. She thinks, I wonder why the emperor ordered this. He even summoned me to the palace for confirmation. The government should be busy taking care of the lands. There's no time for political strifes. Who would try to harm me at a time like this? Lena came shouting and excitedly said, it's a letter. The one you've been waiting for. It's from Sir Allendis. You have 2 letters. Aristia quickly grabs the letter and opens it, a green letter, from Allendis. The letter was as it is, to my lady, whom I so greatly miss. I'm sorry I couldn't contact you sooner. We've been constantly on the move, but we have finally arrived at a vast territory. We're sending soldiers to nearby towns to distribute food and supplies. We were expecting the worst, but it wasn't as bad as we thought. We've prepared well, so things will look better after this winter. Though, we'll need to continue our relief efforts every year. Are you doing well? I'm worried that you're alone. I'm sorry I can't be with you. You may appear strong, but I know you're very kind and can feel lonely easily. Though you won't admit it. Don't overwork yourself, and stay well. I'll send you another letter soon. From your knight, Allendis. After reading the letter, Aristia thinks in her mind, Allendis, you're always so kind. I can feel your warmth through this letter. Seeing the second letter, she asked, then, who sent this other one? It said, to my daughter, Tia. Currently, I'm in the south. She gets happy realizing that it's from her father, Papa. It's from Papa. Is he well? I wasn't expecting a letter from him. The letter was, I'm sorry for waiting so long to contact you. I'm sure you must be working hard while you're home alone. How is your training? I'm worried since you've been quite anxious lately. She thinks in her mind, Papa knew. The letter continued, in case you are, let me continue. My daughter, Tia, you don't need to be in such a rush. I am always ready to help you. For whatever you want, I will do everything I can to make your wish come true. You're doing plenty well even now. Believe in yourself, and try to relax. Feeling joy and guilt at the same time, Aristia thinks in her mind, Papa. I'm such a fool. Papa has been supporting me all this time. Yet I didn't accept and tried to do things all on my own. She then said to herself, Papa. Allendis, I miss you. After a while, Aristia asked, Sir Seymour, do you have a moment? He replied, yes. While surprised, he said, that attire. Aristia asked him, would you help me for a bit? I thought it might be better for you to do other things instead of just guarding me all day. She asked, I would like you to teach me about sword fighting. She thinks in her mind, right, I shouldn't be anxious anymore. I'll start over as if I'm beginning anew. Slowly, one step at a time. That is how I can repay the kind wishes of everyone who believes in me. Allendis was looking outside through the window. His father came and asked, are you still awake? We have to go on patrol again early in the morning. He replied while shuffling the papers, I'll ensure that this doesn't affect our work. You don't need to check up on me like this. The Duke then said, looks like you're still holding a grudge. Alexis isn't well, so of course you'll have to come as his younger brother. And it was by the Emperor's order that you are here. You should obey. He told, this is something you've brought upon yourself. She is still the prince's future fiancée, yet you've wandered near her. Since this reached even to the ears of the Emperor, of course you would be sent here. Allendis said, I'll admit, I've gone too far. But even as you say so, aren't you thinking the same as me? Though, I suppose I'm not the one you're hoping for. The Duke said with a serious tone, Don't say something you're not sure of, Alendis. He aggressively said, your words may end up ruining our family and marking us as traitors. While leaving he said, stop thinking about useless things and go to sleep. After the Duke left, Alendis holds a paper and said, up until this point, I've worked so hard. I'm not going to give up so easily. At Monique residence, Seymour said, be aware of your posture, Lady Aristia. While getting guide from Seymour, Aristia thinks in her mind, as requested, Sir Seymour guided my training. He only taught me the basics, but that was all I needed to overcome the wall that was blocking me. Seymour said, that's all for today. You did well. Aristia replied, thank you, Sir Seymour. He said, you're improving every day. I don't have to do much. The talent of House Monique is surely amazing. While smiling, Aristia thinks in her mind, but I didn't overcome these obstacles through my own strength alone. Seymour said, I'm your guard. Aristia said, you can still join me for tea. While having tea, Aristia looks at Seymour and thinks, it's great that he came here. Seymour suddenly gets more attentive. While confused by his behavior, Aristia asked, Sir Seymour, what's wrong? He told, someone is approaching. Aristia said, what? But this garden is within the mansion. Seymour said, stand back, Lady Aristia. They heard someone coming behind the bushes. Seymour asked, who goes there? Show yourself. Karsane come forwards from behind the bushes and said, a royal guard. Why is an imperial royal guard here? Aristia thinks in her mind, that voice. She said, oh, it's you. Seymour shouted, do not come any closer. If you have some business with Lady Aristia, you must tell me first. Aristia stops him and said, Sir Seymour. It's all right, he's an acquaintance. Would you excuse us for a moment? Seymour replied, yes, understood. While Seymour stares at Karsane while going away, Karsane asked, what's with him? Aristia told, he's my personal guard. Karsane said while feeling annoyed by Seymour's gaze, I can tell that much by looking at him. Aristia said, it's been a while, Sir Karsane. He replied, ah, yeah, it has. Aristia then asked, what brings you here? I thought you weren't going to see me again. Sine thinks in his mind, she's right. I don't know why I came here again. Looking at Aristia he thinks, but at least, she looks better now. She asked, was there something you needed to tell me? Unable to answer he said, hey, you. No matter how much there's no way I can let something like that pass. While surprised by his words, Aristia asked, excuse me. Karsane said, last time, you told me that I should learn manners befitting one of a noble house. But you're the one who showed a lack of proper manners by chasing out a guest. Even if our houses are of the same alliance, your attitude and choice of words that day would be enough to cause a feud between us. So, do you have anything to say for yourself? Aristia wonders, he came here just to say that. She admittedly said, indeed, you are correct. While apologizing she said, yes, I was rude that day. I sincerely apologize, Your Grace. Karsane, shocked by her, said, huh, what? Why are you apologizing so easily? I thought you'd get mad. Aristia asked, do you consider apologizing to be a dishonorable act? He told her, yes. Having to lower yourself in front of another person. Aristia asked, and what about it? Not apologizing even when you're in the wrong, not thanking even though you've received someone's grace. Isn't that what you should consider dishonorable and without manners? Avoiding to answer he said, that's. Aristia asked, and, are you aware? She said, your informal behavior towards me is enough to start a feud between our houses. Getting shocked by her words, Karsane said, oh, well, that was. I'm sore. I mean, please forgive me, Your Grace. Aristia said, I accept your apology. Then she asked, now, what business brought you here today? Feeling pressured by her, Karsane said, well, I was supposed to help you. No, Lady Aris. She asked, did you come all this way to teach me about honor? He said no, I mean. His mind doesn't work and he couldn't say anything to explain. He thinks in his mind, why did I come here? Darn it. This wasn't the plan. He then said, whatever. This is who I am. What am I supposed to do? I'll just be informal. If you have a problem, then submit an official objection. She said, alright, I'll send my complaint to Duke Arkant. Is that alright? He asked, you're really gonna do that? He said, fine, go ahead and do it. It's not like it'll kill me. He then curiously asked, so, are you really gonna tell him? After that Aristia tries to control herself but she starts giggling and laughing. Karsane thinks, I heard something. Aristia starts laughing, ahahaha. Haha. He also starts chuckling. He said, "Oh, so you do know how to laugh. It suits you." After hearing that, Aristia calms herself. He thinks looking at her, "Oh, she went back." Scratching his head he said, "So, since we apologized to each other, we're even now, right?" Aristia asked, "What do you mean?" He then said, "I mean, you can start visiting my place again." Aristia said, "I don't need to visit you anymore." While surprised he asked, "What? Why, are you still mad?" She said, "That's not why. Sir Seymour over there is a very good instructor." She thinks, PFF'd. Look at him. He said, "Huh, that night, oh yeah." Looking at Seymour he said, "I've been wondering, why is a royal guard here?" He asked, "You're not a royal, right?" She told, "I'm still expected to be a part of the royal family." He asked, "What?" She said, "Anyway, you should have some tea while you're here. Lena, please bring some more teacups." Lena replied, "Yes, my lady." While drinking tea, Aristia thinks in her mind, "I can tell what he's thinking. I said I wouldn't marry into the royal family, yet I'm being guarded by their power. He must think it's odd." While Karsane was processing everything and thinking, she thinks, "I hope he doesn't say anything careless in front of the knights." Karsane then said, "Well, that's fine. I have my father's orders, so I'm not going to sit back and watch." Slamming his hands he said, "Let's do it this way, then. You can continue training with the knight. And, I'll just come visit you." While surprised, Aristia asked, "Pardon?" Feeling excited he said, Right. That will be good. And I can see how strong a royal knight is, too." Aristia asked, "You're going to visit me?" He continued, "And it'll be nice if I can learn a thing or two as well." Trained to figure out, Aristia said, "Hold on, Sir Karsane. You can't just decide to." Karsane said, "It's fine. Going back and forth is fine with me." Aristia thinks in her mind, "I'm not fine." Looking at them talking, Seymour thinks, what are they talking about? Karsane then said, "Then, that's the plan. Let's get along, alright." Looking at his fiery personality, Aristia thinks in her mind, he's so pushy.